going live. Aha, and we're live. Hello, folks. Sorry, bear with me a wee second. Popping on a wee second now to make sure everything's okay. And of course, there we go. It's a good job that we do pop online to make sure everything's okay. Because I've forgotten something there. Pardon me. Just coming up to 10 o'clock. So we'll just wait for 10 o'clock to say hello to everybody. If anybody's there, give us a wee shout, say hello on this very cold and misty Thursday evening. And I'm just going to tell you, I've got a spare pair of glasses with me here today. Arranging to go to see the opticians tomorrow, because these are just but I thought I would wait until I got this episode over with. And tonight we've got a double chapter for you as well, so anybody joining, we're going to do chapter 2 and chapter 3 of Children of, oh sorry, not Children of Dune. We've moved on, haven't we? God Emperor of Dune. Pardon me. There's Babs Bio. Hi Babs, how you doing? Saying evening, Doc. Evening to you too, Babs. How you keeping? I hope you're doing well. Yes, it's freezing here, absolutely freezing. There's 10 o'clock, so it's a good job I did do that. I would forget my head if it wasn't screwed on. I'll just say hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Doc Sloan. Welcome to my science fiction station, also known as the Doghouse. Tonight we're going to be doing chapter 2 and 3 of God Emperor of Dune. Now, look what arrived in the post for me today. And look what's on the back of it. It's a brand new book with a horrific, evilly glued sticker that will not come off. I'll have to work at that. I've picked this up just because I've got a few issues with the copy that I'm working with. And I thought I would do it sooner rather than later. Plus, I'm trying to actually get a set of copies that are all the same. This isn't too bad, actually. And it was just particularly looking at one thing within it, just at the very start, that there's a bit of a typographical error in the copy that I've got, which made me kind of go, uh-oh. And it's been fixed in this copy, which, yeah. So I'm probably going to switch over to this one. This is one of these anniversary editions, isn't it? Continue the epic story started in June of the 4th volume of the saga that has inspired millions. So yeah, that's cool. Anyway, so that's another copy to work with. I picked it up with a book token, thank goodness. So bear with me a wee second. I got a dog. There's a dog hair in my cigarette. Dear oh dear. There's Carlos Costello saying, "Hey Doc, Babs." Babs saying, "Howdy, Carlos. How you doing, Carlos? Good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me just get organized then. I'll put that book down. Bring a copy of the book over. Get me precious fluids there. Oh, which I've left a bit of stuff on the table. Condensation. Pens. We need paperweights. There we go. Sorry about this, folks. Always a bit disorganized, not long after cooking dinner there. Making one of my nice omelets. There we go, there's chapter 2. Oh, I suppose we have a wee bit of housekeeping to do before we get on with things. Let me just plug that one down there. Last week we were running through chapter 1. We were able to get a full map of this little thing, which we drew. But we had a bunch of names that we weren't able to get time to look at. I had a wee quick run through them to see what I could find. This is the group of 10 individuals alongside the other thing that we're going to talk about. We'll say Siona for now, but Shana is her name. I will explain that in a wee second too. So of those lot, we had Radi, for example, which was an Arabic name, means satisfied, pleased, or content. Also got within German names, it means advice and counsel. Or Hrad could also mean quick. In German, Alain, take your pick, is an Irish Alain, meaning lovely or beautiful. Chad pointed out rather obviously, which also had me look at this, Ulot, as much as we were saying its relationship, or Ulot to Uliet or Liet, for example, is quite likely a suggestion to Lot, who's actually we're referred to as a beloved straggler, which lines up nicely with that. I think I said Lot was from, I wasn't sure last week. I think I said he was from Gomorrah. Was it? Or not from there, sorry, but the city that he fled from, that he lived in, it was Sodom, wasn't it? Not Gomorrah. Cetus, I think, is Cetos, which comes from cetosis. Bristly or full of bristles is what that word means. Now, the one we could get nothing on is Inineg, Ineg. I've got nothing on that. Owanameo, Onomeo is, I figure, something to do with Owanameus, the king, who is responsible for quite a lot of stuff that goes on with the Pelopons, I suppose. He's the king of Pisa. His name means wine man or wine striver, if you like. Huti, all I really have got with that is Al Huti, the Yemen tribe, if you like. I've just put see wiki. Mimar, I've got is Ottoman Turkish from the Arabic for architect. It's also a Hebrew word for word or command or the bitterness of spirit. And we have Oala, which I have as a Romanian word for a cooking pot. And I think we said that we didn't really get much on Kuteg either. Possibly just a bit of a similarity, I think I suggested to Queequeg. So that was just those names that we had, that list of them. Frank tends to get them from some place or another. And then before we get started as well, there's Chaya saying shalom all. So they're saying hi Doc, hi all, hi Cynthia, hi Chaya, good to see you both here. Thank you very much for joining us as always. Carlos is saying welcome Chaya and Cynthia. Yeah, excellent to see you here, folks. So Siona, as we've all been, I'm guilty of this as well, by the way. Siona is not Siona. I know that for a fact we have on record Frank Herbert telling us how he pronounces this word, this name, and Frank is wrong. I'll give you a few examples, by the way, but we have tons of names like this in Ireland. And that Siona is pronounced, so the SI in Irish is like sh. It's so you might know, for example, well, this name, as I said, is Shanna. It's a version of Shannon. And it's a name associated with the Irish river goddess, the eponymous goddess of the river Shannon. So we're having a wee chat about this and whether to proceed with that. And I think it might have been somebody, was it maybe you, Carlos, who pointed out down the line we have Shiana, which is, I think, meant to be a name that's evolved from this one, which would make much more sense. And this is absolutely who this is, because no, I pronounced this Olafaced last week, and if there's any Irish speakers out there, don't give me grief for it, please. It's Ulfaced is how we should be pronounced it. Ulfaced, like that. That's it. There we go. Which is the great worm, and the fact that we have an Irish myth associated with this person and a great worm, and what happens to them is exactly what happens at the end of this book. It's no coincidence at all, and it's fair enough. And so we have lots of names. I'll type in a couple for you here. For example, the one you probably all know the most, there we go, is Siobhan. That's Siobhan. Talk about our fairy folk, if you like. There we go. That's them there. That's the Shay. There's a place actually not too far from here with a very similar name to Siona's, and a lot of people in Northern Ireland would mispronounce it, and they would call it Sion Mills, and it's Shan Mills. Shan as well, Sion, is an Irish name. So just to let you know, I'm as guilty as everybody in mispronouncing it. I've been calling her Siona ever since I've been reading the Dune books. It's not, it's Shanna, and it's an Irish name. So it was just, we had a wee bit of a natter about this. Ireland does have a few things to do with worms, if you like. Crom Croch is the main one, but we do have the Ulfaced, as it's called, in relation to Shannon and the River Shannon and that myth. And we'll have a look at it later. It's I think I actually know the source for this myth, and I don't have it. And I'm pretty sure this is where I think I know the book that Frank got it from. I think it's a book on fairy tales from the 1910s or something. So I'm going to investigate and see if I can find it. If it's about, it should be in public domain. So there we go. There's Carlos because I knew a girl named Saoirse. I never would have guessed how it was pronounced. Oddly enough, I caught a clip the other night. Carlos, was it of is it Saoirse Ronan on Stephen Colbert's show in America? I'm not sure what you call it. Is it the Late Show or the Late Late Show or the Very Late Show or something like that? They're all very imaginatively named, aren't they? But it was running through a whole bunch of Irish names. You know, as my own name is an anglicisation of an old Irish name, but my name, which is Sloan, would be Sloan, and it would be Slaughain is how you used to pronounce it. But some letters are silent within Irish, I suppose. I'm no expert. I only know a few words and so on. But that's where we get that from. And so I don't know whether to try and keep. Shall we go with Shana or try and keep it at Siona? I think whenever you learn that you've been mispronouncing a name badly, you should do your best to have a go at it. I used to call Goethe Goethe, for example, for years. You know, and for a long time I didn't know about the little bar on certain names from Eastern Europe, if you like. So I used to call Stanisław them Stanislaw them, as I'm sure a lot of us do. Well, I think yes, I just scribbled down a wee things just to. It was just in relation to the last chapter. We had this, where has all the vigor gone, in the epigraph from the God Emperor. And then I suppose within the chapter we had the example of Quuteg, who's conservative, got no energy, this kind of thing. Oh, and the other thing was that the Shana or Siona, I suppose we'll use both for a while. Let's see how that goes. I've written down here, Frank Herbert pronounces it Siona. Along with a couple of other characters, but one of them being Jessica. We've talked about this before. We're just getting the ball rolling with the book club, by the way, just getting getting ourselves going. And as usual, we can find out things. And something that I had meant to do really before, I think there's a particular, especially her kind of, there's something about Siona that's a bit like Jessica, I think, is within this book very much, I think, especially in the last chapter, there's a lot of the Greek heroine Atalanta about her. Especially being the fastest in this race. For example, a little bit perhaps of the Irish Mava as well. Maca, sorry. My head's away with Irish pronunciations. I missed you there. Sorry, Julian saying hi, everybody. How you doing, Julian? I hope you're keeping well. Howdy, Julian. Hey, Jules. Thanks very much for the chat the other day, by the way. I really enjoyed it. Do apologize. Chatting with Julian is great because when you're speaking to him, I forget that he's as he pointed out to me, he's a bit baby-faced, is the way he put it. And I was saying to him the other day, oh, you haven't lived until you've seen this, that, and there. And it really did occur to me that we've had a good 100 years of an explosion of science fiction, and that there is a bit of a generational lack of awareness of some stuff because we don't consume our media the same way. I think, you know. I think it's interesting. So we're having a good old natter about Buck Rogers, space disco, the 70s and 80s. Now it occurred to me that I'm getting all of it. So yes, indeed, Joel, it was good chatting to you. Right, folks, let me see. We've got two very short chapters to get started with. I like this as a title for chapter 2. I've decided to call it. I've got into the habit of giving the chapters names or some kind of description. We've gone with Ecce Homo, Ecce Vermis, which in Latin is behold the man, behold the worm. And this is kind of it's a kind of typical thing that Frank does within early on once we get past the first Dune books, depending on how you look at how he handles it in Dune Messiah, which is a mess and results in 2 different books. But this is kind of name dropping, recapping for us, if you like, reminding us of all certain things that have gone before. And this chapter is also going to set out I think how we can see a shift within the politics of the Dune universe, a shift in power. And we also get a little addition to the Atreides family tree, because I've done a little genealogical thing before. And this time we've got a new person to add into it, which is interesting. We get to find out about Chani's mother. As Julian said, science fiction history is unfortunately very obscure because it's not highly regarded in academic or intellectual circles. Yeah, I think this is the thing, Julian. As we point out, the way we're going through this book, academic and intellectual circles, the fact that they have any kind of snobbery whatsoever is highly damning to them in terms of how we examine culture and literature and history and all sorts of things. To have a snobbery towards science fiction doesn't actually make sense, because the further back you go, the fewer books that we have, and the further back you go, the higher the quality. What we might call the what's the word? I suppose proto science fiction, this kind of thing, earliest forms of it, etc. All of those books are literary masterpieces. The ones that kind of come out at the end of the 19th century into the early 20th century, regardless of what they think, they're literary masterpieces. We're talking about things like War of the Worlds and The Time Machine and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, this kind of thing. And they're absolutely worthy of study, because science fiction is very much concerned with what's going on with mankind. Yeah, it is a bizarre thing. Frank Herbert himself said it, folks. The quote is that science fiction is in the gutter. And Frank wasn't too sure if it should be. It's oddly enough, it's a kind of sentiment that Seamus Heaney sort of suggested about the Northern Irish people being in the dirt. It's the same with Frank in the science fiction. He's not too sure if it would be better for us to be out of it or not, that it's a useful place to be. Some of us are in the dirt, but we're all in the dirt, but some of us are looking up at the stars, this kind of thing. But yeah, science fiction, I think, will explode, Julian, in academia. If it and to be honest with you, particularly within literary academia, it's a very, very tired and well-worn kind of, we've been studying certain books for hundreds and hundreds of years, and there's not many new ideas about them. It's time to look at something new, Should we blame or thank Chaucer for bringing literature to the common man? I think it's I wouldn't credit them with it, Carlos, at all. Literature is very much brought to the common man in the ancient world. Saying that, I've performed on a stage where Charles Dickens has performed. I was telling Julian this, but authors used to go around and read their books and stuff like this. There's been different ways of publishing and different ways of producing literary works and stuff. We go back far enough, they're on scrolls and papyrus and stuff, and then we have mediums, modes, all this kind of stuff. But science fiction has a very shoddy reputation. I think a couple of you out there have been blocked from doing work, by academics on things like Dune, because it's not considered worthy of study. I don't know how many videos we've made now on these. I don't know. We're pushing well over 100 on these books. The amount of the I don't know, the amount of stuff that we discover and or find curious that is worthy of intellectual pursuit within these Dune books. I'm reading these. We've got 10 notebooks behind us full of stuff. I could probably dig out 20 PhDs on Dune. And if it's going to be, the question is, why does certain fantasy literature get that, respect? Lord of the Rings, academia left, right, and center. It depends on your sensibility sometimes. But then whenever certain science fiction books do come under, incredible amount of academic scrutiny, such as Orwell's 1984, which has a whole series of journals just about it, you're very hard pressed to get them to admit that is a science fiction book. Same with Huxley's Brave New World, science fiction book. Zamyatin's We is a science fiction book. Science fiction, I think it causes a lot of problems for academics, to be honest with you. Oh, I've got a range of badly working lighters tonight. Bear with me a second, folks. I can get this lit. Oh, for God's sake. And we'll get started. And as always, anybody's got any questions or comments within the Golden Emperor, we're going to be encountering an awful lot of stuff. I suppose we'll be looking at some sort of Socratic stuff. There'll be we're going to have to look at Gnosticism. We're going to have to look at the nature of Abraxas. We're going to be looking at worms in cultures and religions and mythologies. I brought up the Babylonian creation myth here sitting next to me tonight just for that. There's a worm has a bit of primacy in it. We've got the Shamir worm, from the Temple of Solomon. We've got so many things that are worthy of study. And I think I know where Frank's got his Siona Shana, the Great Worm, the Old Worm story from, and I'm going to follow up on that and see if we can find it. Yes, indeed. I thought that was fascinating. It's a folktale myth that I wasn't aware of as well. Yeah, Old-Faced is a great worm in Irish and fundamentally associated with the Shannon myth. In fact, it's going to be beautiful. I think whenever we get to the end of the book, I think it will definitely dig it out, and we'll maybe have a wee chat about it beforehand. But Stories of River Goddesses, etc., very, very interesting. It's one of Frank Herbert's typical inversions of what he's done with the Shannon myth. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. In fact, having a wee chat with Julian, it got me thinking that a lot of the books I have on Irish mythology are kind of part of the Irish literary revival, or from the turn of the century. And I was kind of wondering, has anybody done a definitive kind of encyclopedia or something like that on Irish myth? I'd be kind of going to have a wee nosy, see what I can find out. So here we go, folks. Chapter 2, Ecce Homo, Ecce Vermis, recap, name drop. What I've written down next is pay attention and foreshadowing. Again, this isn't really an epigraph, is it? We're getting a bit of a change in tack with Frank and some of these things, though we'll fall back into them. But we can take it as our epigraph for number 2. The following is from the Hadi Benotto translation of the volumes discovered at Dar-es-Balat. Hadi Benotto, we've had a wee chat about. Dar-es-Balat, we've discussed as well. So it's telling us which set of volumes that these are from. And as I said, we're going to get that. So this is from, I suppose we've got the stolen chapters, which this is going to refer to. And I suppose it's, as I think Julian pointed out, this book's getting a little bit metatextual on us. China saying, don't forget the primordial Garden of Eden snake becomes a worm when punished with removal of its legs. Yes, I've actually got tons, Chai. I'm going to have to scribble them down. We've got the Lair of the White Worm, if we want to, pushing into fiction stuff with Bram Stoker and the actual myth that it's based on. Goodness. And we've another version of Crom Croch in Ireland. It's called Crom Dove, which would be D-U-B-H. But again, yeah. And I'm looking forward. I've read a little bit on the Shamir as well. I was hoping to do it as an audiobook, actually. I've got a collection of Jewish fairy tales that it's in. It's pretty interesting stuff. So and that's just kind of some of the more esoteric stuff. We're going to go into the nature of homosexuality in the military. Frank's ideas. We've got the concepts of no technology, no genes. There's and we also have, I suppose, human society going down divergent evolutionary paths. And not only that, we have a very unusual leading character in Leto II. There's tons here worthy of study, I think, and worthy of enjoyment. We've been punished with the removal of its legs. Yes, indeed. I must have a look. I wonder about Aesop and the snake. I must have a look, see if there's a story of how the snake lost its legs there. Now, we got loads of stories about snakes for some reason. No snakes in Ireland, never have. It's one of the things I like about the place. I don't like snakes very much. I kind of have the Indiana Jones reaction to snakes. I hate them. Not fond of them. So here we go, a little bit of biography, if you like. I was born Leto Atreides II more than 3,000 standard years ago, measuring from the moment when I caused these words to be printed. My father was Paul Muad'Dib. My mother was his Fremen consort, Chani. My maternal grandmother was Farula, a noted herbalist amongst the Fremen. That's the first mention. So this Farula is Leto Kynes' wife, Chani's mother. We've not heard, as far as I know, we've not heard her name before. I'm pretty sure that's correct, because I've done a little genealogical map. I've done it again here. I've done a slightly bigger one here to go with this, but I certainly didn't have her name before. So a noted herbalist amongst the Fremen. My paternal grandmother was Jessica, a product of the Bene Gesserit breeding scheme in their search for a male who could share the powers of the sisterhood's reverend mothers. My maternal grandfather was Leto Kynes, the planetologist, who organized the ecological transformation of Arrakis. My paternal grandfather was the Atreides, descendant of the House of Atreides, and tracing his ancestry back to the Greek original. Enough of these begats. So, from that, the little thing that I've made a wee note of, Chani's mother is called Farula. Sorry, Faruna. No, Farula. That's my handwriting. Apologies. Farula. Yes, indeed. Very quickly, Russell. No, Italian Greek roots often linked to the word strawberry, farala, Egyptian Arabic farala, Greek farula, fraula, from Italian fragola, deep roots, blah, blah, blah. So there you go, just in case if you're wondering about the etymology there. Strawberry. Or possibly lanternlight, farola, farol from the Latin farus. I think the first name's Egyptian Arabic farola, Greek farula, fraula, origin from Italian fragola, a variant of fravola. Deeper roots from the vulgar Latin fragula, combining fragum, strawberry, and the ula is the diminutive there. Sorry, just me being complete. So I noticed I hadn't got a meaning for her name there. Let's just scribble that down. And Egyptian, what was that? Egyptian Arabic. There we go. Good to know. Leto is Leto is establishing his imperial legitimacy via his ancestry. Yes, indeed. Farula sounds like a Willy Wonka character or a breakfast food. Farula. Farula. Eat Dunula. Nice sounding name, the way it runs off the tongue, I suppose. Yes, indeed. We've got an establishing a genealogy here. Not just to I suppose the pedigree. The Atreides still baffles me. I don't know. Leto Atreides is just not that great, in my opinion, at all. I certainly would have thought that perhaps compared to his father, that Paul would be the Atreides. The Atreides, descendant of the House of Atreides and tracing his ancestry back to the Greek original. So in other words, what he's saying is I'm a direct descendant of Atreides. If he's a direct descendant of Atreides, he's a direct descendant of Pelops. And if he's a direct descendant of Pelops, he's a direct descendant of Tantalus. So Tantalus is the head of that line, by the way, but the family line goes with Pelops. So within the Pelopids, if you like, Pelops has a few kids via Hippodamia, but the two that we know from the Trojan War, prior to that, I suppose, parentage and stuff, Atreus and his brother Thyestes, this is the two that feed each other their kids and pies and stuff like this. Theastes' son that ultimately kind of tries to avenge himself upon these is Aegisthus, who I believe kills Atreus, doesn't he? And then Agamemnon and Menelaus are the Atreides. They are the two sons of Atreus. The last of that line, I think, is Tisamenus, or Tisaminus, depending on how you want to pick it. So yeah, it does fill in, I suppose, Leto Atreides' heritage here with Gamma Farad'n. I suppose I'll just show it to you there, but we have, wasn't bright. I was just scribbling this as I went, folks, but there we go. If you like, that's the whole lot. Pull out a wee bit. We got some more at the bottom, including Siona and Siona. Just wee things I scribbled down here to help me get a wee sense of things. I did quite a detailed, smaller kind of genealogy elsewhere. But enough of these begats, as I say, that's a sort of, I suppose that's a kind of reference to the Old Testament, doesn't it? So-and-so begat so-and-so, who begat so-and-so, who begat so-and-so. Genealogy is important. But yes, indeed, we get a name finally. We're 4 books in and we find out who Chani's mom is. Ferula, of the Fremen, a noted herbalist, whose name means strawberry. Hans Crescentius, didn't she get juice? Well, I'm assuming the way you're putting it, that all Fremen get juiced eventually. I like the way you put that. It reminds me there's an actress with a very similar name, isn't there? Fairuza Balk. Is that it? Is that her name? Where do I remember her from? Didn't she play Dorothy? Wasn't Fairuza Balk the actress that played Dorothy in Return to Oz? I think it's a very similar name. Again, Farula probably has Egyptian Arabic origins there, possibly Greek. Didn't she get juiced? Somebody said, I wonder who Leto was writing for. Who among his future readers would care about the Greeks, the other guilds, the Bene Gesserit? Yes, indeed. I kind of get the sense that there might be a little bit of prescience with Leto in terms of who is going to be reading these. We're going to get him addressing, I suppose, whoever's reading this in a little bit. Sorry, the genealogy continues here, doesn't it? I've gone over enough of the begats. My paternal grandfather died, as many good Greeks did, attempting to kill his mortal enemy, the old Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Both of them rest uncomfortably now in my ancestral memories. Even my father is not content. I have done what he feared to do, and now his shade must share in the consequences. We had a wee chat the other week about how Frank had killed the realism of other memory for me. He did something that ruined it. Now, I'm no bother with that. On it, suspension of disbelief sorted out, and on we go. But there's more reinforcement of that here in this passage, because he's telling you that these memories are ancestral. He's been all these men who died by the sword. He's been all. There are things that don't quite add up with it. We were just saying basically, it's how on earth are these memories possibly passed on at a point of death when you're not passing your DNA on, you're not having children, you're just bleeding out onto a field or something. So we got quite a few wee Greek references here. A shade. I always find shades a bit tricky within the Greek kind of Roman worlds. Your shade, I suppose, or your shadow. Whenever you die, that's what appears in the underworld, if you like. Was it? I think there's stuff in the Bible, I think, about that as well, like death shadows and stuff. But the Greek word is skea, and the Latin word is umbra, which means shade or shadow. I suppose Italian modern word would be ombra, wouldn't it? It's a spirit or ghost of a dead person that resides generally in the underworld, wherever that happens to be. What we can get from this I suppose, let me see. Blah, 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 blah. This doesn't he? Yeah. You get kind of heroes popping into the underworld, if you like, finding an interest in the underworld, to have a natter with the shades of the dead for advice. It happens in the Odyssey and it happens in the Aeneid. Um, George Fraser's The Golden Bough. The Golden Bough itself is a reference to an entrance to the underworld, to Hades. So there we go. So, but interestingly, I suppose that the dead within Leto II's consciousness, if you like, is within his ancestral memory. We've got Leto I there, we've got the Baron Harkonnen there, we've got Paul Atreides there, and we're told that they're all basically not happy. Even my father is not content. You almost kind of get the sense that the Atreides Harkonnen rift goes beyond death. It seems quite strange. Has anybody seen, by the way, the trailer for the Odyssey? I don't know what to make of it. It looks very, 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 very Hollywood, very bizarre. Not what I was expecting at all. So, attempting to kill his mortal enemy, the old Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. That's Leto I he's talking about. So enough of the begats, but he went on with a little bit more of personal history there. And here we go. I've done what he feared to do, and now his shade must share in the consequences. So the dead, his father's dead, but even so, being dead, he must share in the responsibilities of what I'm doing, because he's got front row seats inside my head, basically. The golden path demands it. And what is the golden path, you ask? It is the survival of humankind, nothing more nor less. We who have prescience, we who know the pitfalls in our human futures, this has always been our responsibility. Now, Cynthia, hang on, let me check. Was it Cynthia who said, who is Leto writing for? I think partly that's answered there. We're about to go. Oh, in fact, I'll run into this next bit and then we'll jump back a wee second. How you feel about this, your petty woes and joys, even your agonies and raptures, seldom concern us. My father had this power. I have it stronger. We compare now and again through the veils of time. So we've got, oh, here, really want to check something here. Now, I've got a bit of a mess in terms of punctuation within this chapter. Within that, just that little bit of section, I wanted to see how it's handled in this book. And what is the golden path, question mark, you ask, within the same sentence. Should be, what is the golden path, comma, you ask, question mark. Yeah, let's see. And I was like, oh, here we go. So we're off to not a great start. It's not too bad, I suppose. Oh, in fact, tell you what, sorry. Oh, yes, I was going to look that up there. Let me just see. Bear with me a wee second, folks. What is the golden path, question mark, you ask? Yeah, it's the same in this book. Same mistake. Top. Okay. No, there was something else very quickly. We who have prescience, we who know the pitfalls in our human futures, this has always been our responsibility. Now, let me see. We had something similar in Hadi Benato's talk at the beginning, didn't we? We believe that this could only have been written by someone who had the direct experience of ancestral memories, by someone laboring to share that extraordinary experience of previous lives in a way that could be understood by those not so gifted. And I got the sense that that's not us when Harry Bernardo was talking. Could be it's aimed at Harry Bernardo and the historians and archaeologists that work with her. It could be that it's aimed at the Bene Gesserit. Or anybody who I suppose sooner or later comes to read the thing. How you feel about this? Your petty woes and joys, even your agonies and raptures, seldom concern us. The we and our there, the us, I think, is the royal sense. My father had this power, I have it stronger. We can peer now and again through the veils of time. So we've basically just had a lot of name dropping. The fact how you feel about what I do, I don't care. Your petty woes and joys, even your agonies and raptures, seldom concern us. So there we go. That says a lot about what I think what a lot of Dune tries to demonstrate to the reader is that the little people, the average Joe, the citizens of this universe, don't matter one jot to anybody. They're fodder, basically, I tend to think. And he now and then can peer through the veils of time. The suggestion is that the God Emperor uses his prescience sparingly, rather than being absorbed by it. Leto characterizes the ancient Greeks as dying while attempting to kill their enemy, not necessarily succeeding at it. No mention of Alia, who both does and does not kill her father's enemy. Yeah, she kills him twice, doesn't she? Alia kills the Baron twice, technically, I think. Chad said in Hebrew, shade means demon, so as to not to arouse or invoke the negative energies. Even today, we don't pronounce the word aloud. We spell it Shindalit. The demon there being a Greek word, Chaya means spirit, like eudaimonia and so on. So shade means demon, so not to arouse or invoke the negative energies. Even today, we don't pronounce the word aloud. We spell it Shindalit. Thank you. Excellent. Shindalit. Are there any cases of natural or spontaneously occurring prescience in Dune? It's an interesting question, Carlos. I think the answer is yes, but with Paul Atreides, before he's tested. And if we go there, I can't remember that far back, but I can't tell. Rebecca is the Wild Reverend Mother of the Jews, isn't it? I can't remember what her abilities are, but it's quite possible that she would be one. Spontaneously occurring prescience. Again, I can't remember. I'm trying to remember I'm thinking about Miles Tegg as well, but it's too long, and I'll have to get those books read soon. I think just to help myself here, but it's a good question, but I'll go with Paul. Natural, spontaneously. He has prescient dreams before the Reverend Mother. I mean, that's why she's there on Dune. One's to test him, but one's to ask him about his dreams. Carlos, Cynthia's saying, Carlos, what about Shadow Mapes from Book 1? It's interesting as well. You can, as much as you can have prescience, you could have someone who just predicted something. I love Mapes. I think Mapes is a great character. So what is the golden path? It's the survival of humankind. I still think it's the excuse that any particular person gives, and that's Leto's excuse. Nothing more or less. We who have prescience, we who saw the pitfalls in our human futures, this has always been our responsibility. Yeah. I'm sure I wrote down something there, but it's our responsibility. Maybe I wrote it somewhere else here. Oh yeah, it's this wee bit over here. I've scribbled it on the next page. Golden Path is, I'll tell you what, I'll read on actually, just it's a wee recap of what we're doing here. So, the planet of Arrakis, from which I direct my multi-galactic empire, is no longer what it was. Sorry, I'll read that again. The planet of Arrakis, from which I direct my multi-galactic empire, is no longer what it was in the days when it was known as Dune. In those days, the entire planet was a desert. Now there is just this little remnant, my Sarir. No longer does the giant sandworm roam free, producing Spice Melange. The spice. Dune was noteworthy only as the source of melange, the only source. What an extraordinary substance. No laboratory has ever been able to duplicate it, and it is the most valuable substance humankind has ever found. Without melange to ignite the linear prescience of guild navigators, people cross the parsecs of space at only a snail's crawl. Without melange, the Bene Gesserit cannot endow truth-sayers or reverend mothers. Without the geriatric properties of melange, people live and die according to the ancient measure, no more than 100 years or so. Now, the only spice is held in guild and Bene Gesserit storehouses, a few small hoards amongst the remnants of the great houses, and my gigantic hoard, which they all covet. How they would like to raid me, but they don't dare. They know I would destroy it all before surrendering it. Oddly enough, I was listening to a bit of old. I will always listen to a bit of old Harry's game at night. There's a bit of he that can destroy a thing controls the thing in old Harry's game. Interestingly enough. Oh, well. So this is the wee bit we're at, just to recap running through this here. So the golden path, we're being told in the simplest of terms, is the survival of humankind. That's what it is, end of story. The responsibility for the survival of the humankind, according to the God Emperor here, belongs to those with prescience. And it reminded me of what Paul Atreides said all the way back about the Bene Gesserit in Dune. You take a lot upon yourselves, don't you? Well, Leto has certainly taken a lot upon himself. We've got that Leto II's empire is in at least 2 galaxies. Multi-galactic is the term there, which is interesting. We've also got that the empire, over 3,000 years on from the last time we've seen Leto II. We still haven't seen him yet. The empire that Paul built, the empire that was Shaddam the Fourth prior to him, is in a state of decline and stagnation. In relation to melange, we've got the guild, the Bene Gesserit, and what's left of the great houses. Apparently, the remnants of the great houses have small hoards of spice. Within that, we're told that the guild use it to ignite their linear prescience. Yeah. So they can travel at really fast speeds. The Bene Gesserit were told no truth-sayers or reverend mothers. Now, I've written next this. I don't think this is true. I seem to recall that prior to the discovery of melange, and I'm pretty certain we've scribbled this down previously, so that they do have truth-sayers and reverend mothers, but that they used other drugs to do so. I think if anybody remembers this, the thing that I thought was curious about it was that you can take a drug. For example, the Bene Gesserit had a drug to take melange, had a drug to become a reverend mother, right? Like a poison, geriatric poison or something. They found that melange mimicked and had the similar effects of lots of other drugs, but once you used melange, the original drug became worthless. Does that make sense? Which is kind of interesting, isn't it? That as melange is used, whatever it is about it, whatever about its melange's chemical makeup, it neutralizes the ability of other drugs that are similar to it to work. So I've written down not true because we've heard it before. It's an easy enough little continuity mistake to make in a set of books that are ultimately over 1 million words long. So again, we're not going to worry about it too much. But I suppose from Frank's point of view, we could say that's probably true now. But it wasn't always true. I mean, we've heard about the previous drugs before. I think, again, that's way back in June. Populous geriatric properties allow nobody to live really more more past 100, it preserves your youth, the appearance of youth. We've also learned that the Bene Gesserit can do that at will, and that they choose not to because they reckon they would get lynched for it, which I think is bizarre. So storehouses exist with the Guild, the Bene Gesserit, the remnants of the Great Houses, and one we found about Leto II's gigantic hoard of spice. But they wouldn't dare. They know I would destroy it all before surrendering it. He that can destroy a thing controls a thing. Being the basis of one of the kind of key phrases of Dune, if you like, the key philosophies. Oh, let me catch up with your comments here, folks, and get some fluids. I haven't had a drink since we started. It's not like me. Jess says maybe Duncan at his end and children had prescience. Yeah, he has something very similar, doesn't he? I think he does. Who said that? Sorry, I've lost my track here. Chaya, I agree. I think Duncan had it. I think Duncan was Kwisatz Haderaching or bordering on it. But yeah, there were snapshots he was getting. That's correct. He was functioning beyond Mentat. Connor says, didn't Paul once describe his abilities as like super Mentat? Quite possibly. There's the Baked Alaska Joe saying, howdy all, howdy Baked Alaska Joe. Thanks for joining us. We're just tearing through chapter 2 of God Emperor of Dune. We're having a good wee natter already. And Julian saying, Leto does produce melange, but only to keep himself alive. Melange requires a certain balance of oxygen and water. Pardon me. Yeah, one of the things that somebody asked me about doing this a long time ago, Julian, I suppose when we started, I said it'd be interesting to find certain things out as we're making these notes, because we haven't got too much on it. I suppose the further down we go, the less we learn. But we've learned quite a fair bit about melange within our notebooks, etc. It was maybe to try and put all that information together, because it's used for loads of things. It is so ubiquitous, isn't it? Oh, Scorched Earth Policy number 6. How you doing, Scorched Earth Policy number 6? The other drugs from Reverend Mothers was developed from the Brian Herbert book Sisterhood of Dune. Oh dear. Yeah, there's a whole chunk of drugs mentioned in Dune, the first book. But we definitely had. I would have to go back and dig it out. It was to do with the drugs that people used before melange came along, I suppose, and how it affected them. And yeah, I suppose ultimately, and again, we're not there yet. Another book or so to go. But there are wild Reverend Mothers as well. Yeah. Not that that's prescience, as I said, but it's the so I don't know. I'll have to have a wee nosy. But thank you for that, Scorched Earth. Yeah, I kind of often wonder about what they've taken from these books and done with them. We were talking, I think, a little bit back about Hazimir Fenring and all. And Frank Herbert's on record somewhere as saying this, that he doesn't give you all the answers, but in terms of how you write good books and what you give to the reader, and one of the reasons why people keep coming back to the Dune books is because of the mysteries in it. And a really good author sows mysteries in his books, and he'll answer a chunk of them in this case. But it's part of Frank's writing technique to not answer things, to drop things and let you wonder. And I think it's very deliberate to take those things and then write books about them. Kind of destroys that sense of wonder, if you like. It's one of the reasons why I've read 5 of the Kevin J. Anderson, Brian Herbert books, but it's one of the reasons why I don't go near them. Is that there's enough complexity with time and character within these books. Anytime you muck around with it, I think you're going to mess it up. Danny Villeneuve's demonstrated that. Anytime you muck with these books, prepare for a whole series of cascade errors. They will ripple all down the books, I don't know what he's writing at the minute, but I'm pretty sure it's not Dune. I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's like the Dune film. I think is almost as much as it looks very good and stuff. It's like all the characters have been replaced by pod people or something. They're just not right. Where were we? But they don't dare. They know I would destroy it all before surrendering it. No, they come hat in hand and petition me for melange. I dole it out as a reward and hold it back as punishment. How they hate that. It is my power, I tell them. It is my gift. With it, I create peace. They have had more than 3,000 years of Leto's peace. It is an unforced tranquility, which humankind knew only for the briefest periods before my ascendancy. Excuse me. Lest you have forgotten, study Leto's peace once more in these, my journals. So again, we were asking earlier there, was it Cynthia saying, who's this aimed at? Who, quite possibly historians. Quite possibly the general public. But the suggestion is it's people who would be studying, looking at his rule for a particular reason, if you like, to try and understand it, to try and figure it out, to try and learn about the past, to try and learn out about him. Because it'll tell us a bit about himself in this as well. But it's peace through enforced tranquility, which humankind is known only for the briefest periods before my ascendancy. Lest you have forgotten, study Leto's peace once more in these journals. Oh, I was watching some clips of Jimmy Carr the other day, and I think he's touring about in America, and I think he was in some city where they make where electric boat is, where they make nuclear submarines. And he's saying some people think that nuclear weapons are rubbish, but he says we used them twice, actually three. In fact, we used them loads of times, testing them and stuff. But that they've been earning their keep every single day afterwards, because hey, there's been no war since we went to World War II. And I just went, what the hell kind of history books is he reading? What a ridiculously ignorant statement to make. No war since the end of World War II. What planet's he living on? But yes, indeed, peace through oppression, if you like, enforced tranquility, control of the drug. What we've learned of melange is that it is fatal. If you take any decent amount of it, it's fatal upon withdrawal. And we have to assume that quite a lot of people have possibly died from it over his reign. But anyway, advice to students or historians here is kind of what, lest you have forgotten, study Leto's peace once more in these my journals. It's quite possible he's writing his own history here too. I began this account in the first year of my stewardship, in the first throes of my metamorphosis, when I was still mostly human, even visibly so. The sand-tried skin which I accepted, and my father refused, criticism, and which gave me greatly amplified strength, plus virtual immunity from conventional attack and aging, that skin still covered a form recognizably human. 2 legs, 2 arms, a human face framed in the scrolled folds of the sand trout. So this is very much kind of how we left. If we've finished Children of Dune, time to go on to this book. We've had a 12-year-old Leto, and that's how he looked the last time we saw him. That face. I still have it. The only human skin I exposed to the universe. All the rest of my flesh has remained covered by the linked bodies of those tiny deep sand vectors, which one day can become giant sandworms. And they will. Someday. So we're getting a sense that, again, we haven't met Leto yet. We're wondering kind of what he's like. We're getting it from him. A little bit of what he was like. He's using his historical account, beginning this day, and this is how I've changed over time. We're getting clues here. The tiny deep sand vectors which one day can become giant sandworms, and they will someday. Prophecy there. The one I've written next to this, the once and future worm. I often think about my final metamorphosis, that likeness of death in italics. I know the way it must come. So there's prescience. I know how it's going to happen, but I do not know the moment or the other players. So he knows what's going to happen, but he doesn't know when or who's going to be involved in it. This is the one thing I cannot know. I only know whether the golden path continues or ends. As I cause these words to be recorded, the golden path continues. And for that, at least, I am content. So, the golden path continues. The survival of mankind, of humanity, continues. I no longer feel the Samtrite cilia probing my flesh, encapsulating the water of my body within the placental barriers. We are virtually one body now. They, my skin, and I, the force which moves the whole, most of the time. At this writing, the whole could be considered rather gross. I am what could be called a pre-worm. My body is about 7 meters long and somewhat more than 2 meters in diameter, ribbed for most of its length, with my Atreides face positioned man height at one end. The arms and hands, still quite recognizable as human, just below. My legs and feet, well, they are mostly atrophied, just flippers really, and they have wandered back along my body. The whole of me, the whole of me weighs approximately 5 old tons. These items I append because I know they will have historical interest. Again, interest to a historian, archaeologist, anthropologist, this kind of thing, perhaps even a paleontologist, Now, this is kind of interesting. Placental barriers. Now, I no longer feel the Samtrite cilia, just backing up a little bit, sorry. Feel the Samtrite cilia probing my flesh, encapsulating the water of my body within these placental barriers. Now, placental encapsulation is a thing, but it's not what we might think. It's basically where you take the placenta, etc., from dry it out and make tablets for it. I think it's a kind of an immuno thing. So the placenta, in this case, is your flat circular organ in the uterus of pregnant eutherian mammals. In other words, not marsupials and things like that. And it nourishes and maintains the fetus through the umbilical cord. This is not what we're talking about. It's a term from botany. Okay, but I just thought we'd set this out. So within flowers, the placenta is part of the ovary wall to which the ovules are attached. And that's what we mean here. That was interesting to learn about the placenta encapsulation. I've not heard about that before. In fact, it's weird whenever you do things about it. When I was scribbling these notes, I could have sworn there was something about somebody in the news doing this. I could have sworn it was. In fact, I'm not going mad. I don't know who they were, but it was some celebrity couple, and they had put the placenta and so on and taken a photograph of it. And then I'm pretty sure that this is exactly what they were going to get done with it, this encapsulation, to make them into tablets, basically, to consume. But in this case, it's to do with botany. It's part of the ovary wall to which the ovules are attached in flowers. So we're getting some. Again, he's giving us a bit of insight into what it's like to be him. He's what we consider a pre-worm. He's 7 meters long, 2 meters in diameter. His face is kind of about man height, about 6 feet up, maybe. His hands are okay. It looks like his legs and feet have atrophied and slid down. His body, he weighs about 5 old tons. That's my reading diagram. Not particularly good. I'm not I actually preferred the little one at the bottom. I quite like drawing little, there you go. Quite like doodling the God Emperor as we card. So we're getting a little bit of insight into him. This is how he's changed. I kind of think, if we do think back to Children of Dune, if we've jumped onto this book straight away, it's kind of, you would feel a bit pity for little Leto. He's a 12-year-old kid and he's turned into this giant worm. You know, he's controlled, and little things to really point out that are quite important here. We are virtually one body now. Him and the worm, if you like. They, my skin, and I, the force, which moves the whole most of the time. Not all of the time. A little bit of foreshadowing there. Excuse me. How do I carry this weight around? Mostly on my royal cart, which is of Ecce manufacture. You're shocked? People invariably hated and feared the Ecceans even more than they hated and feared me. I've written next to that. Why? Better the devil you know. Give that in Harry's game as well. Harry's game. Better the devil you know is from John Taverner's Proverbs of Erasmus. And who knows what the Ecceans might manufacture or invent? Who knows? Mystery, foreshadowing. He says, I certainly don't. Not all of it. There's a. It's quite intriguing there, isn't it? He's pointing us at things. You know, we've got his lineage, the golden path. What's going on with Spice? What's happened to him? And now X. X is of importance. I think this is really, really important, by the way. Hugely important. And who knows what the Ecceans might manufacture or invent? Who knows? I certainly don't. Not all of it. I don't know. You almost get a sense that it should be followed by a spate of booming guffaws or something, some kind of sinister. I certainly don't. Not all of it. You know, that kind of. I get that sense that he's letting us know that he knows a little bit. There's mystery here. Foreshadowing. Leto knows some of it, and we'll go with where the Eccean technology goes and so on. Have we? I don't know if I can remember this or not. Have we encountered the desire of the Ecceans to encounter to create a sentient kind of hunter-seeker? I can't remember if that's a kind of thing that went way back. But the technology that the Ecceans invent within this, or have invented and created, is going to be of crucial importance. And we're also going to get to see a lot of the political shifts that have occurred throughout this empire. And we're going to see some of the power politics played out throughout the God Emperor of Dune. But I have a certain sympathy for the Ecceans. They believe so strongly in their technology, their science, their machines. Because we believe, no matter the context, we understand each other, the Ecceans and I. They make many devices for me and think they earn my gratitude thus. These very words you're reading were printed by an Eccean device, a dictatel it is called. If I cast my thoughts in a particular mode, the dictatel is activated. I merely think in this mode, and the words are printed for me on Redulian crystal sheets, only one molecule thick. Sometimes I order copies printed on material of lesser permanence. It was two of these latter types that were stolen from me by Siona. Or Shana. See, it's going to be tricky, isn't it? Siona Shana. I think we'll keep at it and we'll get into the habit of it, I think. That's good. Yeah, sorry, just trying to catch up with your comments and find where we're at there. I think, Carlos, that's a great question. That's where we're at. Big Alaska Joe said hello. Howdy all. Howdy, Big Alaska Joe. Carlos, I wonder if Leto also produced melange. And if so, would it be different from classic melange, royal melange? Like the royal jelly kind of thing. It's a very good question. I don't see why he wouldn't produce melange. And based on, it's a waste product of the worm, he would fart melange. Uh, so yeah, I don't see why not. Um, it would certainly explain how you could kind of increase his stock, if you like, if there's no other worms about. Jason Leto does produce melange, but only to keep himself alive. Melange requires a certain balance of oxygen and water. Thank you. So I think I might have missed a couple of comments earlier there. Jump forward a wee bit. I think we're okay there now. Because they made Scorched Earth Policy 6 and the other drugs from Reverend Mothers was developed from the Brian Herbert book Sisterhood of Dune. I read somewhere about a theory that war is built into human DNA as a way to ensure genetic diversity. There's no need for war to ensure genetic diversity. I don't think so. I don't think that would go. Little harem. I mean, if that's the case, it looks like we're, if we go into the cyclic theories of human history, Frank's interested in, was it the sexual nature of cyclical warfare or something like that, isn't it? Yeah, that's the book, I think, Carlos. I don't agree. Though it's possible, it's a possible explanation for why we can't get rid of war. Because there's nothing worse for our society, quite frankly, I think. My text says within their placental barriers. Okay. Thank you, Cynthia. Let's have a look. I said I'm thinking on shifting from this book. All right, right there. Probably getting placental barriers. Yes, that's what I've got that too. I just found out about it. It's whenever I look stuff up. What was it? Do you think I said encapsulation? I was chatting about encapsulation there, so that's possibly. But yes, indeed, within their placental barriers. Yeah, I've got the same thing. It's probably just me. Well, whenever these little things turn up, I was going, placental barriers within the sand. What's that about? And I just did a research, and then, as I said, you find out something interesting. Because what is this, the placenta that we're talking? No, it's not. It's a different one. Okay. And then I just found out about placental encapsulation. But yeah, encapsulating the water of my body within their placental barriers. It's a thing. Oh dear. But it wasn't. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. Try to say mine too. Yes, indeed. It's probably me accidentally misreading it there, folks. Sorry about that. Carl said, what Leto achieved through genetics in Siona, Siona, the Ixians achieved through their technology. And there's Flaccid House saying, all evening, Flaccid House. Yeah, I suppose it's interesting that some things will, the no technology. Way back, I made quite, I think, a strong argument for the no gene that Casimir Fenring has it. And being a close relative of Farad'n, there's the strong suggestion that Farad'n, the gene is possibly there within the family, that sense of furtiveness. But it's the reason why Paul can't see him. And so the no gene, if I want to call it that, is in existence for about 3,500 years before we hear of, I suppose, the no chamber that the God Emperor has built for him. If it's the prototype, it's the first one. It's probably a few thousand years away. But yes, genetics and technology doing similar things and possibly blending. The one thing I always noticed, Carlos, was that almost everything in these books, what's at the heart of this story is evolution, and it's not just human evolution within this; it's machine evolution as well. You're on fire with the questions tonight, Carlos. But yes, I wasn't quite sure why the Ixians are so feared. Possibly because of their generally kind of got away with stuff outside of the Butlerian Jihad, outside of the prescriptions of the Great Convention. Better the devil you know, as the God Emperor says. Oh, right. Now, the Ecce dictatel, then, we had a wee read through about that there, didn't we? It's Ecce devices. Dictatel is called, if I cast my thoughts in a particular mode, the dictatel is activated. I merely think in this mode, and the words are printed for me on Rodillion crystal sheets, only one molecule thick. Sometimes I order copies printed on material of lesser permanence. It was two of these latter types that were stolen from me by Siona/Shana. We'll keep doing that. Okay, a couple of things about this, I suppose, that are really worth pointing out. And we've just heard about who knows what the Exians might manufacture or invent. Who knows? I'm questioning also, if from what I've just said, how will those machines evolve? Now, the Exian dictatel, just to say this, can therefore read, copy, and then print out a person's thoughts. That's pretty impressive technology. That's going to be related to oh god, there's machines later on, isn't it? That T probes. So the suggestion I'd like to make here is that the dictatel is the ancestor of the T probe, quite possibly. And again, I'm a bit fuzzy around the last two books. That what we're hearing about here, this machine that the God Emperor, that we're finding out quite a lot about, you know, the technology, the science, etc., the machines of T-Pro. People fear them, but the God Emperor is certainly using their stuff. But that's what that means essentially. Now, as to having crystal sheets that are a molecule thick, how do we look at this? A molecule is a group of two or more atoms held together by chemical bonds. Now, let me see. So a molecule thick, what does that mean? And I decided to investigate this. So it's depending on the molecules, basically, from a few angstroms to several dozen angstroms in thickness. Now, what's this? So it's a billionth of a meter, or one billionth. Sorry, and that's basically the equivalent of a nanometer, isn't it? Now, I've written down this here that the smallest molecule is diatomic hydrogen. Dihydrogen is what I'd call it, which has a bond length of 0.74 angstrom. Interestingly enough. It's 1 times 10 to the power of minus 9 meters. How on earth could you read something like that? As much as science fiction may have exaggeration and all of this stuff, obviously it would need a hell of a magnifier. You know, sometimes we can take the hyperbole of technology a wee bit too far, I think. So if they're a molecule thick, and a billion of them would give you a meter, you know. So a million of them would be a document that's a meter wide, basically. Isn't that something like that? Yeah. Bizarre. Doesn't quite make sense, but that's an extreme level of miniaturization. The ability to read someone's mind, particularly the God Emperor's mind, which we can suggest isn't all human, is pretty incredible. It's a dictation device. It doesn't sound that threatening, does it? That's an extremely dangerous thing. Oddly enough, I'm hoping to do a bunch of videos this year. I've done a lot of sort of saying I would get things done and never got done, and they're all still ready to get done, if you like. But one of them was just certain videos that I wanted to make. One of them was going to be science fiction's most unusual weapons. There's an old 2000 AD, I think it's one of Thorg's Future Shocks, possibly. So it's probably Alan Moore writing it or something like that. And it's these two guys from opposing planets that are at war with each other. And they land on this world that's a bit like it's a planet that only ever made weapons. and they're testing out the different weapons to take the, to see who can get the weapon back to their own planet to win. And they're trying it. This must be the ultimate weapon, handheld nuclear gun. Ooh, that's cool, And then suddenly one of them gets stabbed in the back because the thing he put on was a helmet, and the helmet, the ultimate weapon was the helmet that allowed him to read somebody else's mind. So he knew the other guy was going to shoot him before he did. It's an incredibly powerful machine in terms of what it can do. And I think the interesting thing is that we maybe would gloss over this very interesting machine, because it's simply the thing that's recording the God Emperor's thoughts and presenting them to us. It's a part of the story and the narrative. That's an interesting device. I think it's an outrageously dangerous thing. And that's why I wanted to point it out. I think we could easily go past the Dictatel and not think too much about it. If you think about what it can do, for those of us who have read the Dune series, then there are machines down the road that, I will not say too much to spoil anything, that I think could easily have evolved from this. And as much as we think about human evolution, the evolution of the Kwisatz Haderach, all these different things, we really do have to think, even the evolution of the drugs, if you like, we do have to think carefully about the evolution of machines, and that this universe exists because of a societal revolt against thinking machines. This is a thinking machine. So putting it into maybe a bit better perspective, why are the Exians hated and feared even more than they hated and feared me, says the God Emperor? Why is that? Well, that's it right there. This is a device that's in violation of the Great Convention, isn't it? I need to scribble that down. Right, that's so violates the Great Convention, because it does. Interestingly, in Leto's Empire, think of all the people he's putting out of work there. The scribe, someone that printed up and tied it, bookbinders, this kind of thing. Let me see, where do we get to? Julian said the worms are evolving and melding with humanity. Human and worm exchange biological information in Leto. Yes, indeed. Hybrid species, and one of a kind. Don't forget the like button, says Baked Alaska Joe. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Baked Alaska Joe. I never do that kind of stuff. I've got too much in my head to remember. Not into feeding the algorithm, but yes, folks, if you want to give us a like and a subscribe, that would be much appreciated. We're heading towards 3,000 subscribers, I think. We're still nice and small, hushing on the QT. Oh, that reminds me, I've got something for you tonight that I tried to present a couple of weeks ago. We'll do it properly tonight at the end here. Something hushing on the QT. In the prologue, Cynthia says, Hadi Bonato describes the dictation machine as primitive, one of the first of such devices. Yeah, I've got such a bother. You've heard me all. I'm sure if you know me by now, I've got such a bother with the word primitive and how it's used. Primitive, prime being first, if it's first of one of such devices, then fair enough. Primitive doesn't mean crap, simple, built by cavemen. It means the first. So in the prologue, how it describes the dictation as primitive, one of the first of such devices, fine. Primitive doesn't mean, what a lot of people take you primitive, it's almost like if you called someone a primitive, you'd be trying to call them a simpleton or something like that. Primitive technology generally, the way people would think about it, I certainly don't think about it that way. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. If it is primitive, it's that the word in its proper sense is fine there. Yes, it's the first of its kind. That's an interesting question. Let's see. Carl said, I guess Leto knew Shannon was behind the theft was because he couldn't see who stole the journals. And then the prologue, how about describes the dictation. Yeah. China saying, how small is today's nanotech? 1 molecule thick, thousands of years from now. The stuff in my computer, Chaya, is at 45 nanometers, the smallest stuff. I can tell you that much. To go down, I don't know. The only thing that I know that's a molecule thick, having done a wee bit of reading, I think is something like, is it buckyball carbon or something like that? Nanotech, a molecule thick, thousands of years from now, sounds plausible. Absolutely. Not what I'm saying. Not what I'm saying at all. Yeah, has anybody seen some of the the nanotech sculptures, for example? Like a little bull and so on. I've seen. They're incredible. It's the practicality of such a thing, if you see what I mean. That's my problem with it. Not that it's not plausible. I totally agree that it is plausible. I just find it very, very impractical. You know. At the same time, if you're trying to preserve something or hide it or something, there's reasons for it. I'm happy to suspend my disbelief, but it'll be so thin. You wouldn't want to cough if it was around. If I tried to read such a thing and I coughed, it would have blown off and somewhere into the room. And I'll tell you something as well. It's so thin, I would never find it again. Could probably even accidentally swallow such a thing by breathing in. So I just for a bit of fun. So it's not that it's not plausible, Chaya. It's just that I find it very improbable. I do know that certain technologies, once you get down to certain nanoscales, radiation becomes a problem. I think that there's only so far I think that we can get certain machines to work. And I think we'll get something similar, said, by the way, Cynthia, in relation to the no machines, I think, as well. Primitive, very simple, this kind of thing. And that they're surprised by this, Carlos saying, I like the bile disruptor from the comic Transmetropolitan. Science fiction's more interesting weapons. Yeah, I quite like the laser gun. The laser gun's a really good one. What's the laser gun from? Against the Dark Background, I think it's an Ian M. Banks book, I think. I've got a few. I've actually somewhere I've got the old book of science fiction lists. I think it's got a few interesting weapons on it as well. Bile disruptor. Excellent. Carlos said this in Carlos, awesome comic. I love Spider Jerusalem and his two-headed cat. I've never read it. Transmetropolitan. I shall scribble that down. I do like my comics. Is that like a graphic novel, or is it a comic run or something? I've managed to get myself all of the 2000 ADs and specials and stuff recently. I really need to get a big monitor to read them all on. It's not how I got rid of my paper copies and then managed to get them all on electronic. The last good graphic novel I read there a wee while back was Mouse. I read it when I was younger. It was a bit of a different read for me, actually, but I loved it. I was thinking about the graphic novels. I suppose when I was younger, I had them all at the library. I didn't really own any of them. So I got it as a book token. It was nice to have a copy, but it was excellent. Oh, there's some great ones. There's a great one from Judge Dredd. Is it the Blaster Buddy? This gun that's artificially intelligent, but I think it's kind of found in amongst the war zone long after the war is over. How Dredd it's shooting at people thinking they're the enemy. That's how Judge Dredd has to trick it to make it safe. It's quite a fun story. I'll check that out. Transmetropolitan. Thank you. A dictatel can create a feedback loop if someone transcribed their thoughts directly as they were stated in the mind. How could a machine see or write out a wordless experience like self-awareness? I think Leto, this is still Julian, I think Leto tolerates the Ecces because they're both creators. Leto is interested in the concept of creation as an expression of divinity. Yes. He's a certain sympathy with them. They believe so strongly in their technology, their science, their machines. Because we believe we understand each other, the Exians and I. They make many devices for me, and they think they earn my gratitude. Thus, they don't. These very words you're reading were printed on this device. Yeah, it's they believe so strongly in their technology, their science, their machines. It's their belief in themselves, and I think what the God Emperor has in common is he believes so utterly in his choices here, in the golden path, and so on and so forth. And again, yeah, it's we're being informed a lot about X, and it's certainly stuff that we didn't have to know. You know, it's a bit like me going, "Hey, welcome to the show, everyone." Tonight I will be writing with this big pen in with the choice of black ink on this. Identifying the notebook, what kind of paper it is, how many grams, thickness. This details you generally don't need to know, but Leto thinks that we do, I suppose. And it ends on that these documents have been stolen from me by Siona Shana. Isn't she fascinating? My Shana slash Siona. I'm going to try and go with Shana, folks. It's about getting used to it. As you come to understand her importance to me, you may even question whether I really would have let her die in the forest. Have no doubt about it. Death is a very personal thing. I will seldom interfere with it. Never in the case of someone who must be tested as Siona requires. I could let her die at any stage. After all, I could bring up a new candidate in very little time as I measure time. Okay, so again, we're getting a, do you think I would have really let her die? Yes, I would have. Absolutely. No bother about it. Happily. Death's a personal thing. If death comes for her, that's it. That's her business and death's. I wouldn't do a thing to stop it. I can crank out another Atreides. I've got a breeding program. It's very impersonal, isn't it? And it kind of stinks of that, I'm helping you by not helping you, this kind of thing. What adversity brings to Siona is what it brings. It will make her who she is and what she will become. And what I suppose Leto really needs her to be is what she already is, a rebel. She fascinates me. Sorry, she fascinates even me, though. I watched her there in the forest. Through my Ixian devices, I watched her wondering why I had not anticipated this venture. There's that venture word again. But Shana is Shana. This is why I made no move to stop the wolves. It would have been wrong to do that. The D-wolves are but an extension of my purposes, and my purpose is to be the greatest predator ever known. The Journals of Leto II. Sorry, let me just check. An extension of my purpose, and my purpose is to be the greatest predator ever known. That's what I'm about. The golden path is the survival of humankind. What's Leto about? I'm out to be the greatest predator of all time. Because that's what humanity needs in order to survive. So this is, as Julian had pointed out the other week, we've got very much a level of metatextuality going on. This chapter and this bit is referring, so this is from the journals that have just been discovered in the Dar-es-Balat find, and is in fact referring to presciently and with knowledge that you've got these, haven't you? The stolen journals, and informing us that they were stolen by Shana / Siona. Which the folk in the future might not have had that bit of information. As much as the journals were stolen, who stole them, they might not be aware. And that's the end of chapter 2. Referring to the stolen journals and their thief in the journals of Leto II, this 2 volumes material of lesser permanence, than the Redulian crystal sheets, so they're not made of the same thing. I got very quickly, just it's not particularly important, just in terms of worms. We'll maybe put all this together. I'm reading about the Babylonian creation myth. It's a thing that's repeated quite a lot. It's to do with the creatures, the the deities, etc., if you like, supernatural beings that Tiamat summons to do a bit of thing. And first and foremost, she has made the worm, the dragon, the female monster, the great lion, the mad dog, the man scorpion, the howling storm, Kulili Kusariku. Then it goes on to Kingu, the supreme commander of the wars. But first amongst that, from Tiamat, she has loosed the irresistible missile, spawned enormous serpents with cutting fangs, chock full of venom, stellar blood, snarling dragons, wearing their glory like gods. Whoever sees this thing receives the shock of death, for which they have those bodies up, they never turn them back. She has made the worm. The dragon is secondary to the worm. Yeah, I started reading this, reading the Babylonian creation. Again, a long time since I've read it. Poems of Heaven and Hell from Ancient Mesopotamia is the text that I've got. This is Akkadian, isn't it? Babylonian creation, first of these ancient Mesopotamian poems, probably composed 12th century BC. So it's kind of interesting. I'm enjoying it. I read this donkeys years ago. I don't think I've read it again. Yeah, it's got a collection of different stuff. But I bought it at the same time as Gilgamesh, and something which I have read several times. I'm very happy to do so, you know. So, Leto and his cart Melange with the Guild and Bene Gesserit, Ixians with their machines, the royal cart, the Dictatel. Within that, we've got mind control, mind reading, copy and print. We also get that Leto sees his end here. Not how or who, the importance of Shana, and he's the ultimate predator. So the changes in Leto and what's happened to the Spice, Ecce, and Shana, the importance of her, especially when he sees his end. Whenever we get there, I'm hoping to find the source for this, Smith. I'm pretty sure I know which book it is that Frank got it from. I've got instances of the Shannon and the Great Worm story, but we'll see if we can find you a good one, and we'll read it to you whenever we get to right at the very end, with what we're talking about, Leto's end here. And you will be gobsmacked. You will see that it is the story of Shannon and the Great Worm inverted. Instead of the river goddess, it's Leto. Just swap them. That's it. And it's these inversions Frank does all the time. We're starting to pick up actually a lot of stuff in terms of Irish mythology that Frank's doing. And I don't know, part of me kind of really wants to if I could find time to tear into a lot of his other books again, for one, just all the non-Dune stuff to see what we can find. But we've got a definite development of Frank's interest in stuff, all things Irish. And it's begun in Children of Dune. Stuff that's in Children of Dune is carried on. We've got in here, and the book that follows this, and the White Plague, which I put up a little post about, by the way, on I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but we know that Frank is gets some of his ideas. The similarities between the White Plague, the play by Karel Čapek, who is science fiction royalty, by the way, and Frank Herbert's The White Plague are a wee bit. I've kind of went, oh, Frank, you've done it again, this kind of thing. Oddly enough, I just finished reading Karel Čapek's Rossum's Universal Robots, the play, the other week. I was reading it a couple of weeks ago. Really enjoyed it. I've read it before. And I was just having a wee look around on the internet. Very interested to see that Rossum's Universal Robots, The White Plague by Karel Čapek. He's not just a playwright, but I suppose the other really famous thing he wrote was The War of the Newts, that they're still being performed today. And I would, oh goodness, if you read Rossum's Universal Robots and then look at Elon Musk and just go, oh shit, you know, it could very well be seen as a highly prophetic play. This is the play that gave us the word robot, by the way, Rossum's Universal Robots. That stuff's from the 1920s. Excuse me. Let's catch up with your comments, folks, and then we'll have a wee look at chapter 3. Trials of Metropolitan. I'll have to have a look at that. There's a few graphic novels and comic books that have come out over, oh goodness, maybe the last 10, 20 years in the 90s onwards. And I've kind of been aware of them and not been able to get them, or I haven't checked them out or read them yet in some shape or form. I think that's quite sad actually. The main sort of stuff that I did kind of get into over recent years was the Japanese manga, the Lone Wolf and Cub, which was 28 volumes of it. That's kind of where my comic book kind of went. But there's books like Persepolis, for example, that I'd really like to read. I don't know. I must have a wee think about it. Just what are the great graphic novels of the 21st century? What are they? Because I wouldn't have read too many of them. A lot of the ones that I kind of really was into, that kind of time from the early 80s, if you like, things like V for Vendetta and Watchmen, 300, all that kind of stuff. So that I've read some guys that have quite some odd little ones. Brian Talbot stuff I used to quite like. So yes, indeed, we will find that Shan is very important, Siona, to somebody. So if anybody's a wee bit confused about this and you're just joining us, we've all figured it. Well, we figured out pretty much that how we pronounce Siona is incorrect. It is, and this is absolutely, by the way, who this character is Shannon from Irish mythology, the eponymous river goddess, whose story is just too amazing a coincidence, isn't it? Involves the old worm. I think it's fantastic, but I was reading away with it. It's old faced in Irish is the great worm. Pardon me. So I'm keeping a page on her here. Old faced, the great worm is all to do with Shanna and what happens to her. It's just basically the end of God Emperor of Dune. Aha. So and we'll have a good natter about it whenever we get there. Let's see if we can dig out some other stuff on Irish river goddesses and things like that. It'd be nice, actually. Now I haven't gone near Irish mythology too much in a long time. I'm very into it, but nobody ever wants to talk about it over here. Someone's take to tell just Julian's point could create a feedback loop if someone transcribed their thoughts directly as they were stated in the mind. How can a machine see or write a wordless experience like self-awareness? Yeah, it could be imprinting words and your own memories into someone else. Saying earlier, as well as piercing the wall between the reader and the action. That's missed something there. Shia, haven't I? As well as piercing the wall between the reader and the action. I kind of lost the context on that, Shia, what you were saying there. I was just backing up, but apologies. Breaking the fourth wall. I take the reader in action to do. Oh, is this the Cosmos Center is a series? Oh, is this? Sorry. Is this about Transmetropolitan? Piercing the wall between the reader and the action. It's a series, but can be found in graphic novel form by Warren Ellis and Derek Robertson. Very entertaining. I'll get their names down there. Thank you. Oh, what I've got that I'm looking forward to reading is what's the one? What's the Jodorowsky one? Is it the Inkal or something like that? I've got it finally. I've managed to get all the old Nemesis, the Warlocks, which I'm really looking forward to. I've also managed to get, because I've got the old 2080s, I've got the old Dash Decents, which I quite like. I wouldn't mind making a kind of program on all that stuff. It's kind of the very bizarre history of Flash Gordon and what happened to him in Britain. If you see what I mean. Sorry, I'm just looking for those names. Warren Ellis. No, I don't know this. That's the other great thing about graphic novels is it doesn't take you too long to get through them. You know, as long as they're not super epic or anything. Derek Robertson, thank you very much. I've been thinking about loads of stuff lately. Just all sorts. Things I used to read, you know, comics, graphic novel, all of it. Jesse, let's try again. Leto, thank you, Chad. Leto speaking to future survivors about Shana, Siona, but the future and past fold into each other for the reader, the quasi-piercing of the fourth wall, talking to the reader about the current action to the readers in the past history he's dictating to the future. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Chad. Much appreciated. So there's an interesting that Leto does not think Ecce tech could interrupt the golden path, or does he just choose not to interfere as with Shana / Siona? Spot on, Chaya, says Julian. Well done. Chaya said, I think Leto's lets Ecce tech slide because it's more mechanical machine versus thinking machine. And so they said, Chaya, doesn't X also produce Hui Nori? They do. Alan Fane wrote an essay on the White Plague, says Julian. It can be found on JSTOR. As far as I know, it's the only written academia on Frank and Ireland. It's not. There's more, Julian. There's a couple of things, I think. I think there's something else. It's not, well, there's problems with it. I'm going to do my best to hit stuff on the White Plague. I've been asked to at some point. But I've got no notes on the story, so I'll have to kind of flick through it. And if I'm going to write, you know, academic type work on anything, I generally like to read the thing well and go to town on it. But I don't want to give it that level of time. But yeah, it's just to sort of have been asked to discuss the book in terms of its Irishness, what Frank gets right, what he gets wrong, etc. I've read Ellen Fane's work. I don't think it. I wouldn't. I'm not going to slag it off or anything like that. But there's a lot of things that I don't agree with, and there's a lot of things that I think Frank gets badly wrong in the White Plague. I've been running through basically some stuff on the White Plague by Karl Čapek, looking at synopsis. As much as it's a play, it's got a stunningly similar narrative. Basically, it's about a plague that only kills a certain type of people, and the person who creates the cure for it withholds it from the whole planet to try and get wars ended. This kind of thing. Yeah, the virus in the White Plague by Karl Čapek only kills people over 45 or over, something like that. In the White Plague by Frank Herbert, it only kills women. That's the Ecce text slide because it's more mechanical machine versus thinking machines. I think with what again I can't remember. I thought for the Ecceans got destroyed, and I think I'm wrong on that. I think that it's that they become stagnant themselves. That there's no, after a certain period of time, there's no innovation. This would certainly suggest innovation. But it's not that it's a thinking machine. It's a machine that processes thoughts, that's able to receive thoughts, process them, and then transfer them and inscribe them. So in terms of it's a thinking machine, it's almost one of those that you could say, well, it is, but semantically, it's Leto that's doing the thinking. But the potential of such a machine to read somebody's mind, to use it on someone against their will, this kind of thing, I think that's ultimately where that will go. I also think that those evolutions of that machine, if I'm not mistaken, aren't caused by the Ecceans. I might be wrong, and we'll have to wait till we get there, but they might be caused by someone else mucking around with their tech. But yeah, Julian, there's a very good, let me see if I can find it for you. Xvid pointed it out to me. Episode on YouTube, which is as good as academic as you could like, on Frank Herbert's The White Plague. I don't have it bookmarked here. I should have. Bear with me a wee second. Oh, no, you don't. I think that's it. Bear with me a sec. If anybody would like to check this out, I hope it's the right one. I can't sort of tell while I'm doing the live stream thing here. It's a very, very good video. I hope it's the right one on Frank Herbert's The White Plague. It's oddly enough, the criticisms, I think, of Frank Herbert are Frank Herbert's own criticisms of education and learning. The suggestion is that Frank, when he went to Ireland, grabbed books, grabbed maps, grabbed stuff like that, didn't bother speaking to too many of the locals, and that's why he pronounces Siona as Siona. If you see what I mean, the way, I'm not joking, but you know this country is very small. Ireland and Northern Ireland together, it would, they do an awful lot of wandering for quite a long time. You can walk across this country pretty quickly. I would say, I think we're about 150 miles at our widest point, and just over 300 long, maybe. I think, you can work out how many miles you can walk a day. But we're not very big. Ireland, Northern Ireland itself is ridiculous, very small. I'm not too sure. So I just having a wee look, the 20th largest island in the world. But yeah, I think Ireland at its widest is about 150 miles. Yeah, about 300. Yeah, up and down Ireland, all around it, easily in a day and back. So I think Frank has the characters wandering an awful lot. I don't think their wanderings quite kind of line up. They would have got somewhere. Pardon me. Doesn't X? All right, let me just jump back. Sorry, I think Chasing. I think Leto lets Ecce and Tech slide because it's more mechanical machine versus thinking machines. We'll keep a wee eye on it as we go, I think. There's almost, I don't know if it would be a dependency. There's a perceived dependency, I think, by the Exians that the God Emperor needs them. Yeah, Julian, as much as we did the thing with the WAPO of Leto Atreides with Marie-Noël Zinder's paper, and we pretty much read it online. I think whenever it comes to doing something on the White Plague, we'll definitely run through Alan Fielding's book, work on it. That'll be interesting, I suppose. Yeah, but it goes all the way back. Even things like the Fenian Ram is the name of the submarine in Dragon in the Sea, Under Pressure, 21st Century Sub, Frank's first book. So, but it's starting to get see it a bit. Connors was saying, Cynthia said, China doesn't X also produce Hui Nuri? Connors said they do, based on the genetics of Bronzo of X. Created in a no globe to hide from Leto. And China said, can Leto not see Hui because she's of Ixian build or because she's integral to his future transmutation? Well, he can't see her because she's in the no globe. And I suppose that the way that, I think, if I remember correctly, Chai, the way that the God Emperor presents it is that it's a bit like it's things are noticeable by their absence. If you see it, I mean, it's because there's something missing there. But yeah, Hui's designed to be a surprise to the God Emperor. Interesting character. I was trying to think of what I was trying to think of who Hui Nori reminded me of. And it's not hitting in my head. I've got to do a search through the old filing cabinets in my brain. But there's a somewhere inside my head is me going, she's so like another character that you know from a book, and I can't for the life of me figure out who it is. And I'll just keep thinking, but it's eluding me so far. Yes, that wee link there, folks, is to a video on YouTube about Frank Herbert's The White Plague. It's quite good. I'm hoping it's the right one. It's very good. By the way, our little hush hush on the QT thing that we never got right the other week. Let me see if I can find it for you. Because I didn't realize how the YouTube private setting a video to private works. I thought that if you gave the link to people, that was it. Only people who had the link could watch it. But it doesn't work out that way at all. Let me see. Boom. And where are you? There you are. Give me a link. So I've changed it to unlisted. And here's something for you to enjoy. I'm sure some of you might know this. I've called it, what did I call it when I put it up? A dream of Spanish sands. There we go. That was the for all you Dune fans out there, something a bit special. Some of it's available elsewhere. I'm not saying where I got it from, but it's a thing that's been, let's get this down and destroy, let nobody see it. So there you go. And if anybody comes after me for it, I couldn't give a monkey's uncle. Go ahead, I'm right here. You know where to find me. Basically, there you go. Sorry. Anyway, let's get on with it, folks. But there's a couple of interesting links for you to check out after the program, hopefully. Here we go. This won't take long. This is chapter 3, and I've called this chapter The Welbeck Fragment by Siona Atreides. And we're going to keep pushing this, folks. I hope you don't mind. And if you do, let me know. If you really want me to go on with Siona, because we're all that used to it, I will, if you wish me to. But I'm going to try and force myself to, again, pronounce it properly. So The Welbeck Fragment by Siona Atreides. This is another literary artifact, I suppose. So again, our epigraph here is providing a bit of description. They're not really proper epigraphs. The following brief dialogue is credited to a manuscript source called the Welbeck Fragment. The reputed author is Siona Atreides. The participants are Siona herself and her father Moneo, who was, as all the histories tell us, a major domo. A major domo and chief aide to Leto II. It is dated at a time when Siona was still in her teens and was being visited by her father at her quarters in the Fish Speaker School at the festival city of On, a major population center on the planet now known as Arrakis. God, we could do with a couple of extra commas in there, couldn't we? I'll read that again. It is dated at a time when Siona was still in her teens and was being visited by her father at her quarters in the Fish Speaker School at the festival city of On, a major population center on the planet known as Arrakis. Sorry, coming up for air there. Could definitely do with a bit better punctuation, that couldn't it? According to the manuscript identification papers, Moneo had visited his daughter secretly to warn her that she risked destruction. That's pretty ominous, isn't it? Let me just quickly check if something I didn't do, as always, and we can maybe do it in a wee second. We'll have a look. I'm going to find space for it. Let's make it there. Right. Okay, so what we've got here is a dialogue. We're told it comes from a manuscript called the Welbeck Fragment, so something that's not completed. And the reputed author is Siona Atreides. That doesn't mean that it is the author. The use of the word reputed there is interesting. And it's between her and her father. So an Atreides, we've got a link with Siona Atreides, and we've got another Atreides. We're back in the world of the Atreides as well. We've got Leto, now we've got two more. The father Moneo, we're told, is the major domo and chief aide to Leto II. Major domo, chief guy of the house, basically. What was it when I'm in Germany? When I was in Germany, it was pointed out to me that I think it's a similar phrase, isn't it? Instead of going, at the bar, for example, instead of going waiter, I go, mate, it's just the way I learned German. But I go, Entschuldigung, Herr Ober, yeah, I'd be a bit, I'd be a bit Schuss. And nobody has Schuss in their beer anymore. Turns out my German's Cold War, but apparently by calling the barman Herr Ober, was basically calling him something similar to Major Domo, I think. And apparently they really liked it. They're all chuffed. I was seen as being super polite and really nice by using the wrong term. It was a little bit too much, but it didn't do me any harm. Put it that way. Maneo is from the Latin verb to warn. Manere is the Latin verb manere, to warn, to advise, to remind is what it means. But also, I've written here, see Juno Manetto, the sacred geese of Juno, which I love. Does anybody know this story? The geese, some birds are sacred to Juno. Juno's the Roman goddess equivalent of Hera. On my wedding day, I was surrounded, me and my father, as we were getting a wee cup of coffee, we were surrounded by birds sacred to Juno. Peacocks, tons of them, peacocks and peahens. It's one of the most bizarre things that ever happened to me on my wedding day. And I told my dad the story of the peacocks and how they were sacred to the Juno and Hera, and that she was the goddess of, amongst other things, marriage. So it was a pretty good thing. Yeah, when's that? I don't know, around 390 BC. There's different dates for it. Who was it that attacked Rome? Some Romans, might have been some Celts, basically. I think some Gauls, perhaps. Maybe the Germans. I can't remember this at all. Hang on. Tried to get into Rome. There's a very famous painting of it, the Sacred Geese of Juno. Basically, the geese kicked off mightily against them to save the city. Let me see. Juno Monado. So we get the word money from, isn't it? Let's see. Moneda's title given to two separate goddesses. The name of the goddess is Memory, identified with the Greek Mnemosyne, and is the epithet of Juno, Moneta. The Latin's name in the sense of numerous words in English and the Romance languages, including money and mint. Juno, the epithet of Juno as a protectress, really, isn't it? Warner, a person who warns. The protectress to funds, she warned of economic instability. So I was just looking for the picture. Moneta is a central figure in John Keats' poem, The Fall of Hyperion, a Dream, which is connected to one of science fiction's great series, Hyperion. Fall of Hyperion, Endymion, and Rise of Endymion. All to do with Keats, aren't they? So I'm not finding the painting. Let me just see. Sacred Geese. That's bad. Is that it? It's not quite. Yeah, there's a picture there as well. That's the thing. The geese of the capital. It's not the picture I'm thinking on, actually. It's got these Celtic warriors climbing up the walls and all the geese going nuts. But there's the Geese of the Capital by Henry Paul Motley. But not since they warn. There we go. Sorry, I'm off. I'm on about geese. Pardon me. We always get kids. One of the plays that's taught a lot in Northern Irish schools is called Juno and the Paycock. So it's almost nobody ever. You never get. I've never ever heard teachers or students ever question why on earth it's called that. It's Juno and the Peacock. It's just. Pardon me. And if you kind of understand the stories, changes the plague. Well, it maybe informs the meaning of it a fair bit more. Let's see. So, on is the word I never looked up there very quickly, and we'll pile into this. Sorry, that's the one I forgot to do. On. We got anything on that? Yeah, Irish, diverse, ash tree, Ogam alphabet letter. We're talking about tree alphabets the other day. Potentially Welsh Celtic person whose name is related to Lamb or Wellborn. So Malay name linked to a prominent political figure of the electronics platform. Ogam letter on is the Irish. There we go. We're pushing with the Irish stuff, aren't we, folks? Kind of interesting how we're shifting through mythologies. On is the Irish name for the 17th letter of the Ogam alphabet, meaning ash tree, related to the Welsh Onan. As a surname may derive from the Celtic name Owen, meaning lamb, Owen, or Latin Ugerius, which is wellborn, and an Irish Gaelic a variant of Nuan, meaning descendant of Nuan, noble hero. There you go. Other meanings. Let's see. In Welsh, it could be unkin. I think that's probably it. Just we're seeing stuff like this with Frank. I'm going to go with that one at the minute. So we do have Irish stuff appearing here. Ash tree. Excellent. Let's have a little bit of a chat with Julian about tree alphabets and stuff. But another book I'm just trying to get time to read is The White Goddess by Robert Graves, and it's got all sorts of stuff, including on Ogam about tree alphabets and stuff. Ogam is the written script in Ireland, ancient Ireland. It's separate from our spoken language, if you like. What you get Ogam sticks and Ogam stones. I'm sure some of you know this kind of thing. I'll show you, and that's kind of what it looks like there. So there you go. That would be Ogam. Lines is a linear tree alphabet. Each of the letters is named after a tree. If you like giving the letter that's name and how you pronounce it. So there you go. Weren't peacocks also sacred to Argus? Carlos says the eyes of the peacocks. It's Argus that's sacred to Hera. He's killed, isn't he? So Hera takes the 100 eyes of Argus and puts them in the peacocks, basically, isn't that it? He's the 100-eyed giant, if I'm not mistaken. There's the big kind of emergency disaster government plan over here, all your first responders in the event of things like a nuclear attack or a dirty bomb or kind of thing. It's called Argus, as in the 100-eyed watchdog of, or not watchdog, but the 100-eyed. Oh, for the love of God, really, honestly. Bear with me a second. Now Argos, apart from the city, by the way, is the name of Odysseus' dog. Oh, that's really referred to Argus. There we go. Several. Argus Panoptes. That's it. That's who I'm trying to remember. All-seeing Argos, the many-eyed giant in Greek mythology, known for his perpetual vigilance, he served the goddess Hera as a watchman. His most famous task was guarding Io, a priestess of Hera whom Zeus had transformed into a heifer. Argus's constant watch, with some of his eyes always open, made him a formidable guardian. His eventual slaying by Hermes on Zeus's orders is a prominent episode in the myths surrounding him, and his eyes were then incorporated into the peacock's tail by Hera in his honor. There's a few pictures. There you go. Yes, indeed. So the kind of, in the event of it, that's what they call the operation in this country is Operation Argus, or, they go into Argus mode, if you like, the 100-eyed watchdog. I think they spelled it wrong as well. But yes, Argos with the O is Odysseus' dog. Wonder when that's coming out. I have to take a look at Christopher Nolan's Odyssey. It's not looking too impressive, is it? Oh. Excuse me. Oh, we've got something more there from Chaya. Hang on. So I said, because chapters 2 and 3 don't have the regular font changed prologue, I always consider them part of chapter 1. as all parts are intro to Siona. Yeah, it is a bit funny that I was wondering about that myself, and initially I actually thought initially that chapter one was a bit longer because of this. Um, but they're in, it's the way that they're put in. I'm taking them as it is a bit weird, isn't it? In fact, just to show you this, one of the reasons why I wanted to change this book, if you can see at the bottom there, the size of the journals of Leto II there. Um, I don't know what's happened here, but then we switch to the next page. I don't know if you can see it's much smaller. They've actually used a different font here. That's kind of one of the reasons I was wanting to pick up this anime, because I had a book token. Oh, and I've always wanted to have a single set of the Dune books, but it's different in this one. And I'm thinking about though we've got the same mistakes again with that question mark now. But yeah, it is. It's. And then it kind of becomes more sure of itself as we punch on, doesn't it? The epigraphs tend to become more like the epigraphs we're used to. And I'm not too sure if we have any. But just the following is an extract. And we have that at the back as well, you know. I don't know, Frank does like his epigraphs, you know. Again, the White Plague's full of them. It's a technique he likes to use, you know. But yeah, I go for natural divisions. Try in the book basically because there are no chapters. Anything that divides it up a little bit for me. But that's kind of where I'm going with them. So it was that chapter 2 to me began. The following is from Harry Bonato's translation of the volumes, and then that ends with that's the journals of Leto II, and then we have the following brief dialogue. I took that as chapter 3, just because the text is separated, isn't it? Again, it's a different size in this book than the actual stuff in the next chapter. I would call chapter 4. As we go on, it's back to normal. There's our epigraph, etc. at the front there, but the text it's almost as if Frank's a little bit confused and maybe doesn't know. I honestly don't know, because it wouldn't particularly matter what he's doing, but it's the way that the text is presented here. It's a bit all over the place. It doesn't make me think of it as a stylistic feature of the novel used by Frank Herbert. It makes me think of it as a problem with the publishing house, that they've done it again. As I said, the thing that bothered me in that book has been fixed in this book. Same publishing run in this company, which makes me kind of wonder why didn't they fix all the other stuff as well. That's probably just that part there. It says this is from these journals is at the bottom of the page, and then you have the next thing starting up at the top. It was a bit confusing for me, to be honest, and it's a lot tidier in this so far. So well, I'm going to switch over probably to this, but might just work with the two copies anyway. But if you're working with any of these ones, as I said, the other two, the Nell and the Victor Golance, the Golances, that'll be 4 different versions of them over here. All so far have the same mistakes. And we have the Berkeley editions in America that have a different set of mistakes. Apparently, there is one that I'm going to see if I can identify as well. Another version of God Emperor that's a bit of a mess. Chaya said, on as a Hebrew verb root depends on spelling. One spelling means acquiring or power of violence. Among others, the other spelling can mean shelter in a time of need. Okay. All good. I like learning words. Let's see. Let's scribble. I need to find. Yep, I'll go with that. Hebrew. Oh, I've got space over here. Here we go. Thanking you. Every little bit helps. Verb root. Can be acquiring. Or power of violence. Among others. Shelter in the time of need. Thank you very much. It's amazing how versatile language is, isn't it? The different meanings that a single word can convey. There's Travis Spice 7499 saying, hey there, Doc, tuning in from Jolly, Maryland. I was always happy to join the party. I think we've had a chat before, Travis, didn't we, about chicken Maryland? I've since discovered that every chicken Maryland I've ever ate is not chicken Maryland. We'll maybe get there one day and get to try the real thing. Thanks very much for joining us. Always happy to have you here. We're just about to get going with this. We're having a few chat about some words there. Chapter 3, very short. Again, we're getting a real sense of danger for this character Shana, or Siona, as we've been calling her. He visits Doris secretly to warn her that she risked destruction. And again, moving back and forth, we've just seen this girl in action. We've had a chapter where the God Emperor has told us that he's impressed by her, and we find out that she's a thief, and that seems to be quite a good one. They've stolen this secret journal, the stolen journals of Leto II, 2 volumes of wafer-thin documents. So here's this conversation between Shana, Siona, and Maneo, her father. 2 Atreides in the same room. So starting with Shana here. How have you survived with him for so long a time, father? He kills those who are close to him. Everyone knows that. No, you're wrong. He kills no one. You needn't lie about him. I mean it. He kills no one. Then how do you account for the known deaths? It is the worm that kills. The worm of God. Leto lives in the bosom of God, but he kills no one. Then how do you survive? I can recognize the worm. I can see it in his face and in his movements. I know when Ch02 approaches. He is not Ch02. Well, that's what they called the worm in the Fragment days. I've read about that, but he's not the god of the desert. Be quiet, you foolish girl. You know nothing of such things. I know that you're a coward. How little you know. You have never stood where I have stood and seen it in his eyes, in the movements of his hands. What do you do when the worm approaches? I leave. That's prudent. He has killed 9 Duncan Idahos that we know about for sure. I tell you, he kills no one. What's the difference? Leto or worm, they are one body now. But they are 2 separate beings. Leto, the Emperor, and the worm who is God. You're mad, perhaps, but I do serve God. What a great little dialogue. I think that's fantastic. Not too much to glean from this, but we can glean a fair bit. A debate over whether the God Emperor, Leto II, kills people or not. Shana saying, and this is from Shana, who's got his stolen journals, if you like. You don't need to lie from all of this. He kills. He said he doesn't kill anybody, that we have a duality here. If we back up a little bit, where do we get it? Let's see. Just what Leto said in his journal there. Where's that triple dot? There you go. No, it's another triple dot, isn't it? How you find things. Sorry, bear with me a wee second. All these begats. Where are we? Back a bit. Do I kind of wait around? Here it is. This is just from what he said earlier. I no longer feel the Santrite cilia probing my flesh, encapsulating the water of my body with these placental barriers. We are virtually one body now. They, my skin, and I, the force which moves the whole. Most of the time. This is the other half of this is the other part of the time, isn't it? The worm that kills. So as much as we have 2 beings really in symbiosis that have gone through metamorphosis and possibly a little apotheosis, we're heading towards a bit of gnosticism. Sorry. I think we're getting this a certain idea about dualism here, and this to do with God as well, and ultimately heavily one of the ideas that the God Emperor is based on is that of Abraxas, which comes from Gnosticism. We're not going to hit this topic tonight, folks, by the way, A, because it's getting late, and we're going to just wrap up shortly with this, but B, because it's a big topic, and we're going to have to look at it quite a bit with the God Emperor, I think. And I need to do a bit of reading. I've looked at some, I suppose Gnosticism is a kind of almost a group of religions, to be honest with you, that comes out of the ancient world, probably from about the hundreds onwards, past up to about the 3rd century BC or AD, sorry. And you get all sorts of little ideas, but it kind of runs with the idea that I suppose in Christianity isn't even really kind of ratified and formulated and kind of codified, if you like, at this point. It kind of runs with the idea that there's too much evil in the world, therefore the universe can't be created by an omnibenevolent God, so that basically there has to be two gods. One is the all pure, all good, yay, and the other one is the creator God, if you like, with ideas of things like the demiurge and stuff like this. Check out Gnosticism on Wikipedia. You have a fair amount of stuff to look at. I looked at some of these kind of religions way back then. Oh my goodness, when I was about 18. Montanism and Martianism and stuff. They're ten a penny, as they would say, in that part of the world at that time. But we get a whole, it's kind of interesting that they're hybridized in many ways. A bit like the creature Abraxas, which generally appears as a worm's body, if you like, big serpent's body. And depending on how you look at it, occasionally he's got either a lion's head with a man's face or a rooster's head occasionally. And Abraxas is a kind of a bit like abracadabra. It's meant to be a magical term. So there's a kind of run. And where it's going to take us is this, that Gnosticism kicking off in the early few hundred years AD, if you like, how it formulates, how it evolves, how it changes, how it heads down through the years and eventually blends into a whole range of esoteric kind of cults and religions, things like Rosicrucianism, the Masons, blah, 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 all of this kind of stuff, ends up really within the occultists, the great sort of occultists of the 18th and 19th century, guys like Aleister Crowley and stuff like that. I suppose all the way down to its modern form, if you like. Abraxas, the idea of it's an interesting thing, and we're going to have to, I suppose, A, do my homework a wee bit, and B, sort of present a lot of this stuff to, in terms of what's relevant to the God Emperor. If anyone wants to check out my PhD videos, the Dune series Piled Higher and Deeper. If you look at the episodes, there's 2 episodes on Leto II. I think one is a Kwisatz Haderach, one is within the hero, I think. I'm not too sure. One of them is possibly evolution. But there's 2 episodes on, and one's longer than the other. And in that video, I've always tried to get as much evidence that matches what we're talking about. So in that video, you'll see Abraxas coins. They're my piece. Oh, here, tell you what, very quickly, I can show it to you. You only got to remember the stuff I have here. I've got that much of it. It's of use to us. To be honest with you, I tend to be keeping that much in my head of what we're going to talk about that I forget that we've got all this stuff here. I'll very quickly show it to you. That'll be a lot easier than where are my pictures in the middle? Oh, I might have the source of it. There we go. Obverse side of an Abraxas coin depicting with lion's head and serpent's body. Just got the one. There it is. I think this is from the 3rd century AD. Oh, hang on. There we go. There's Abraxas. Oh, goodness gracious. That's one where he's much more obviously lion-headed. As I said, you'll see, if you look up Abraxas coins, for example, you'll see ones kind of, oh goodness, who does he remind me of? Rhode Island Red, that's it, isn't it? Anybody who doesn't know, there's a character from the Judge Dredd universe called Rhode Island Red, and he's a rooster. He's a mutant with a rooster's head. But you'll see ones with roosters on it. Julian said, would have loved to have a look into Moneo in his early years as a rebel. Ah. Chaya's asking me, wasn't Boethius Gnostic? I have no idea. Hang on. Boethius, is that Anasius Boethius? Is that you're talking about? Hang on. Baba Daba, Roman senator. Ooh, it's not around. 6th century. I've got him as being a martyr of the Catholic Church. Born in Rome, let me see. Very quickly do the search here. No, associated. I don't know him at all, so let's find out. Gnosticism. There's links to him, related topics here. I can't find the text on the text. Oh, ladies, behave. Sorry about that, folks. We're in the dark house after all. I honestly don't know, Chaya. I know very little about him. Wasn't Aleister Crowley into black magic? That's yes, and Madame Blavatsky. Yes, indeed. That's the people we're talking about, Chaya. Yes, indeed. I have a wee bit of a connection to them. I suppose in a funny way, to Aleister Crowley. I know some people that knew him, if you like. Going back a long bit. I was actually thinking about these people the other day, and I was just wondering if they were still alive. But I know a guy whose father was the groundskeeper for Aleister Crowley's estate in Loch Ness. But yes, indeed, Abraxas is part of all of that. As I said, various secret organizations like the Rosicrucians and so on. There's something really interesting, actually. I think I could point you to a video that would help with a lot of this stuff. Let me see. What's his name? Is it Matt Baker? Is that what you call? Yeah, Dr. Matt Baker has. Let me see if I can find it actually. Let's see, videos. I really enjoy his channel. It's got some very good videos on if Jesus existed. It presents a couple of the ideas that I might have presented to you before. Let's see. Did the Romans create Christianity? He does all sorts of genealogical trees, doesn't he? I think it was a genealogical tree of esoteric religions. I'm just running through them here to see if I can find the one. It would be really, really useful to anybody who's wanting to kind of understand this stuff, especially in relation to the God Emperor. The bit that I forgot to continue is that this stuff kind of heads on down into Jungian philosophy and stuff like that, some of the ideas that are there. And I think that's kind of where Frank comes in. I'm not seeing the thing I'm looking for. I'll tell you what, folks, I'll see if I can find it for you for next time. It's an old one, I think. But he's got that many videos. Goodness gracious me. It's one that follows the history of esoteric religions. And it would include the likes of the Rosicrucians. It would include the magic lot like Madame Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley. And as I said, some of the stuff leads into Jungian mythology. Oh God, I got something I need to look up with Young in relation to this. But it's a book I don't have, so I'll have to see what I can find. But yeah, I think, well, in terms of how we look at Abraxas, this type of character, we've got the mythological worms, etc., and he is one. But it'll be quite an interesting thing, and we can see what we can learn about it. It's a thing that changes and morphs, if you like, throughout 2,000 years, pretty much. And we'll see what we can take from that and apply it to the God Emperor's character, and how he goes about his business. And I think already, that would I let her, would I let Siona die? Sure, this kind of thing. I think that some of those comments are in part to do with the character of Abraxas, I think. But we'll see if we can get some extended reading, some stuff on Wikipedia if we can find it. Gnosticism is about Gnostics, from the word knowledge, to know, if you like. If you're an agnostic, for example, it means you don't know if a God exists or not. So it's an interesting stuff, but it really is way out there. It's and as the early Christian church kind of develops within the Roman Empire, and eventually kind of, from like 325 AD onwards, with things like the Council of Nicaea, as it heads along, starts to sort and cut the stuff out that they're not interested in, be a bit wary. But there's all sorts of kind of Christian cults and things around the time. Gnosticism to me seems very much like a hybrid of a bunch of different religions and their ideas that are kind of perhaps finally come together in kind of cultural cohesion, if you like, within the Roman Empire. But I think there's all sorts within Gnosticism. Early Christian and Jewish religious systems, yeah. Let's see, is a collection, this is what Wikipedia says, is a collection of religious and philosophical ideas and systems that coalesced in the late first century AD among sects of early Christianity and other faiths. It is not a singular, homogeneous tradition. Oh, goodness gracious. By the way, if you're looking at Gnosticism, as in the page on Gnosticism, you'll see a picture of Abraxas right to your right, I think. Isn't that another version? That's another version of him there. As the symbol that they have on part of a series on Gnosticism, and there he is on the page. An umbrella term used by modern scholars to describe different groups and beliefs that shared certain characteristics. These diverse Gnostic groups generally emphasize personal spiritual knowledge, or gnosis, above the authority traditions and proto-Orthodox teachings of organized religious institutions. The Gnostic worldview typically distinguished between a hidden, uncorrupted supreme being and a flawed demiurge responsible for creating material reality. Gnostics held its material existence to be evil and believed the principal element of salvation was direct knowledge of the supreme divinity attained via mystical or esoteric insight. Many Gnostic texts deal not in concepts of sin and repentance, but with illusion and enlightenment. So, who have we got there? Mandaeans, Alkacites, Jewish. Yeah, there you go. The guys that I did look at, our traditions include Basildeans, Martionites. I call them Martionists. There you go. Montanists and Martionists. Martionites, Thomasenes, Manichaeism, which adopted Gnostic concepts such as cosmic dualism, emerged as a major religion movement in the 3rd century, briefly rivaling Christianity. Yeah, and then it's an interesting, seen as heresy by the church. Blah blah blah. Where are we? Major movements. Judean Israelite. I'm going to have to read a fair bit on this myself, folks. I'm not that well informed. I know about 2 groups that were in the Roman Empire. There's Martians, the one I know about. No, sorry, bear with me a wee second, folks. In fact, let me see. But yeah, we're going to put stuff together. And so we've got different aspects. So we've got this kind of worm being. We've got a lot of Judeo-Christian mythology here. We've got a lot of Islamic mythology. We've dealt with some Meso and Southern and Northern American mythologies and stuff like that. We're hitting some Irish stuff here by the looks of it. Not just Irish myths, but culture, language as well. Words anyway. And they have been within the Dune books for a long time. I think we always point out that the language of the universe is Gaelic. It says so in the terminology of the Imperium, or Gaelic, as some people pronounce it. Not sure the spelling Boethus I thought was medieval before. I think he's the guy I was looking at there, Boethus. I'm not too sure myself, chap. I think he was a 6th century Roman chap, but Gnosticism appeared, but I'm not familiar with him. Boethus. As we got an Egyptian king, Boethusians, Jewish sect, closely related to, if not, the development of the Sadducees, Boethus family. Oh, we're getting more now, aren't we? It might be the spelling. Boethus of Chalcedon. Chalcedon. Let's see. Egyptian king, known in Greek sources as Boethus. That's Hotep's second way. Boethus, Platonist, 4th century Platonist philosopher. Boethai, family of metalworkers. God, we've got tons of them. Boethus of Carthage, Boethus of Chalcedon, Boethus the gem cutter, Boethus of Marathon, Boethus of Sidon, Peripatetic, Boethus of Cilicia, Herod II, Judean prince, sometimes called Herod Boethus, Boethus the Epicurean, Titus Flavius Boethus family of Jewish high priest, Boethus, namesake of the ancient Jewish sect of Boethians, Simon, son of Boethus, his son. And then I've got the other spelling, Roman philosopher, early 6th century, Boethius. God, there's tons. Got Booty of Monaster Boichi is Irish monastic saint, also called Boethius. Boethius, son of the Roman philosopher, Consul 522. Boethius of Dacia. Axel Boethius, Swedish archaeologist, son of the Roman. I don't know. Senator, Consul, Magister Officiorum, Polymath. Central figure in translation of the Greek classics into Latin, precursor to the scholastic movement. Along with Cassiodorus, one of 2 leading Christian scholars of the 6th century. Well, if that's if it's the Roman one, then no, he's a Christian. I think certainly that there's tons of people called must be a popular name in the ancient world, and I didn't know any of them. That's a good one, Chaya. Thank you very much. I'm not too sure who you mean. Let me see. Wasn't the Black Magic Mysticism? Yes, Crowley and Madame Blavatsky and all of those lot. For pronouncing their spelling Blavatsky, I'm not too sure myself. That's who we're talking about. Yes, that's kind of the end where some of this stuff ends up, because that's a bleed into the 20th century, isn't it? And I think some of the stuff does end up in Young's ideas. Chai, I think I read somewhere that he was a member of the Order of the Golden Bough, if I may be mistaken. Is this Crowley and the folks? Order of the Golden Dawn, is it not? Hang on. Yeah, it's I do that all the time, Carlos. I get my words mixed up. The Golden Bough is the one I was talking about earlier. Is the book by Fraser, which is it's an entrance to the underworld. Also, interestingly enough, a tree again. Order of the Golden Dawn. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is the secret society founded in 1888 in Britain, focused on Western esotericism, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and ceremonial magic, attracting figures like W.B. Yeats and influencing modern Wiccan occultism through its teaching, tarot, alchemy, astral projection, blah, blah, blah. Let me see, is it the same people? Founded by Samuel Litter Mathers, Westcott, William Woodrow. 10 grade system, yeah. Famous artists and writers, notable members, W.B. Yeats, Bram Stoker, Aleister Crowley. There we go. I love all these secret, weird, again, based on Rosicrucianism. The most famous Rosicrucian that I know is John Dee. The kind of is the original 007, the Queen Elizabeth I's royal mathematician. I suppose was he a royal astronomer as well? He was her spy. If anybody doesn't know the story, by the way, that Ian Fleming gets 007 from his signature, if you like. I'll show it to you. He used to sign his, I think like that. He used to sign his letters to Queen Elizabeth like that. So the symbol of the square root is the symbol of the royal mathematician, and these two things are meant to be eyes. He's her eyes, and I think he was meant to be her lover as well. So it's like, I've got eyes for you, but I am your eyes. And if you put that in the mirror, Bob's your uncle, you get 007. Oddly enough, maybe business cards, when I get them done, I because I teach maths, I made sure that the symbol of the square root went on them. Chai, I think I'm talking about the Epicure, but not sure. I thought we could figure it out there, Chai, but there is absolutely a ton of them, and I think we'd have to have a wee nosy. But yes, indeed, I think it's definitely important to get a wee sense of it. As I said, I'll do a bit of reading this up. We're only into the book of 2 or 3 chapters, and my work's cut out for me already, But there we are. But yes, indeed, folks. But a great fun couple of little chapters, things being revealed to us, whether they're true or not, what's going on, information from the far future that's relevant to the story. We're getting a bit of insight. We're learning stuff that maybe we shouldn't know, or we're giving us a bit of insight into what's going to happen. We've already got a sense of that from the God Emperor, and some interesting words, whether they have any relevance to the story or not. But certainly we've got one myth that's absolutely nailed into this story from Ireland. We've also found out, by the way, in this chapter that an awful lot of Duncan Idahos have died. At least 9 that we know about for sure. The emphasis that he does not kill them, that it's the worm, is that we're getting here the separation of worm and Leto. We've got from his own words that they're virtually one these days, and the sense that Leto's there, but the worm can take over, from what we get a sense of from a Neo. And it's like, what do you do when the worm turns up? We get the hell out of there. That's generally what he's saying. So we're getting a real sense of, a bit of sense of conflict within this Atreides family on the nature of Leto and the truth, that he's a killer. And it seems that we're presented with the fact that he's not a killer on a technicality, that he's not necessarily in control. And this seems to line up, not all the time, with what the God Emperor himself tells us, So excellent stuff. We've got plenty to look into. And as always, everybody, thank you so much for your help and your comments and your questions. And we'll be back next week with chapter 4. I suppose I maybe better do this just in case if there is a bit of confusion. Let me see. So we're going to be starting next week. This copy will be page 17. We're back with, oh goodness, everything's falling on the ground here. We'll be back with the epigraphs anyway, so hopefully that should make our lives a little bit easier. So we're going to page 17 with the epigraph. I am the most ardent people watcher who ever lived. I'd like to make a claim for that title. I watch people all the time. I've been doing it since I was a kid. Oh, excuse me, books on the ground. But there we go, folks. So hopefully we've got lots of interesting stuff that I have to go and research and try and find out for you, and check out a wee bit of extra reading out if you're interested. Like, some of this stuff's on Wikipedia. It's all good fun, and it does really does feed into the book. It gives us an extra layer of meaning and understanding, I think. So listen, some of you haven't seen in a wee while, by the way. It's great to see you here again. Thank you very much for joining us. Long-winded as always. I'll say good night. Look after yourselves. Take care. No matter where you go, there you are, folks. Be safe. All the best. Good night. Bye-bye.